All right, thank you. I'm going to call the town council meeting to order. We have been out at BOEC and had a site visit and looked at their master planning. And now we're going to have a little bit of a presentation to get everyone up to speed and some time for questions. So I'm not sure, do we have a staff member who's leading this conversation or just BOEC?
We do not have a staff member. We
Okay.
just roll right into it.
So BOEC, whoever wants to sit at the table, feel free. I don't know what the note says. Okay. Whatever you're comfortable with.
Gentle reminder to speak into the microphone.
No. It's very hard to hear when you're online, so thank you for. And Dick is joining us. He's up there in the sky.
Hi, Dick.
Hi, Dick.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members and staff. Thank you so much for joining us for that little tour of the Breckenridge Wilderness Campus this afternoon. We really appreciate you taking the time. Your packets have a memo from that was written by Matt Stace and his team at Stace Architectures, and Matt will come up after I do a brief introduction and sort of walk through this. Jamie Overmeyer is our Wilderness Program Director and can answer specific questions regarding the Wilderness Program itself that you may have. My name's Sonia Norris. I'm the Executive Director of the BOEC. The last time I sat in this chair, we were presenting a proposal to the Town Council to consider an extension on the lease of the BOEC Wilderness Campus. And that was, I think, at least 3 years ago. So we've moved forward with the plan for that campus, which is a pretty aggressive, optimistic, exciting vision for the wilderness program, which is really what the BOEC started with 50 years ago. We are celebrating 50 years of the BOEC this year. So the timing is pretty great for us to be able to be here and share some of this with you. We believe that the future of the BOEC with the support of Town of Breckenridge is pretty safe in the hands of this town and those that support the BOEC, our donors, our supporters, our corporate partners, and those that we serve who are so reliant on the programs that we offer through that, through the wilderness program and our adaptive ski and snowboard program. The vision for this campus is pretty extensive. It begins with a phase 1 of replacing the ropes course, which has been in place for a little bit over 30 years. And you know, the whole idea of this vision, when we presented it 3 years ago, it started with, we need a new ropes course and we need a new intern cabin. And since then, it has really expanded to an entire redevelopment of that site for reasons that make a lot of sense when described by those with the talent to do that and the expertise that I do not have, that we're going to allow Matt and Ashley to take on that piece of it. So with that, Jamie, do you have anything? Jamie's going to stay up here because she has the answers to a lot of the questions that you may ask specifically about the wilderness program. Jamie's been our wilderness program director for about 11 years, has been with the BOEC a little over 25 years. And we're super, we're very fortunate to have the type of people on staff that have the passion and expertise, et cetera, that they have to bring the programs that we have that take place on that campus to life every year and serve the number of people that we do. So with that, I'm going to give my seat over to Matt Stace, and Ashley probably will join him as well, and we'll let him walk through the plan that you have in front of you.
Thanks, Sonia. Hey, Matt.
Is this good?
Yep, you're great.
We're good. Good. Thanks for having us. I'm Matt Stace with Stace Architecture and Interiors. And we've been working with the BOEC for year and a half, maybe, on what we're calling a vision plan for the Wilderness Campus. Thank you for going on that site visit, those of you that could attend. It's a beautiful property. It's a town property. And we want to accentuate the positives and kind of mitigate some of the challenges that the BOEC has encountered in the last, many years that they've been working there. When I first moved to town, early 90s, I worked for Mark Hogan, Baker Hogan Architects, and they were designing and building the Griffith Lodge in, I think, 1992. So 30 some years ago, it was new and fantastic. Tony Harris was the builder. It was a great addition to the campus. And, 30 years later, as you could see from the site visit, it's very well loved, but outgrown because the programs are so fantastic and they're serving so many people that it needs some help. It needs expansion in terms of, the footprint, needs expansion in terms of ADA accessibility, because that's what the BOEC is all about. So that's one piece of the puzzle. But there are a lot of other pieces as well. In the memo in the packet, I can go through really quickly what the goals were, and Jamie and Nick from the BOEC were instrumental in helping establish these goals to kind of create a long-term vision for the property while allowing the short-term goals like the ropes course or the expansion of the public parking lot to take place and not have to do things twice, put everything in the right place so that, we're not putting the ropes course where it's going to have an impact on future operations. Maintaining the feel of the current campus is important because it's very different than the facility over on Wellington Road or other areas in town. It's a very camp-like rural experience, and you hit on that when we talked about that last year. It's in a wooded setting for a lot of our guests that come and stay over for the programs. I mean, it's a magical place. We want to maintain that. We don't want it to be like downtown Breckenridge, like Main Street. So we want to make sure that we can reinforce the unique identity that's there. There are some shortcomings with the current campus, as we talked about, just because of the incremental nature of the construction of it over many years. In particular, the vehicular access to get from the existing parking lot up to the Griffith Lodge, I think, is about a 15% grade on the driveway. And it's steep for anybody, for delivery trucks or ambulatory people in cars or things like that. But when you put that together with a lot of the programs that they run, the people that they serve, and a lot of the gear, the vans, and the rafts and other things that they're towing around and storing there, it could use some help. Options for phase construction as funding becomes available, because this is going to take a lot of input and a lot of financing to see all these different pieces of the puzzle get put together. And of course, they want us to help upgrade the campus while they're still running all their summer programs and all their winter programs. Not a problem. That's it. Not a problem. It's a busy place. Can we get to some of the graphics? Is that something that we could do?
Just give me a moment and I will share the screen.
Okay. Yeah. That'd be great. Thank you. This is the overall site. Can everybody see that okay? Dick, you can see that all right? We were just up there, as I said, on the site visit. This shows the entirety of the Sawmill Reservoir. The BOEC portion of the property is kind of on the northerly side. Oh, thank you. If you could scroll forward a couple pages, let's see. I think another one, if you don't mind. Yeah, that one's a little bit more zoomed in. That's the existing campus. On the right side, you can see the public parking lot, and then the intern parking lot is sort of, adjacent and co-equal with that, and that creates some issues functionally for the BOEC staff because there's commingling between the BOEC interns, the public that is using the parking, the other vehicles that are coming up into the Griffith Lodge. So the hope would be, and if you go on to the next slide. as we talked about during the site visit, to actually extend the driveway to make it longer so it isn't as steep. So it would start off in the same place by the public parking area, and we're hoping it can wrap around the existing intern building, which is noted with the 7 on the screen there, and bring the proposed driveway around the south side of that and terminate in the same spot up by the Griffith Lodge, because the Griffith Lodge isn't going to go anywhere, and neither is the Snowy Ridge Drive access point. So finding a way to make it less steep means making it longer, and that's what we're hoping to accomplish with this plan. Shannon Smith joined us on the site visit, and she and I had some conversations about setbacks and pragmatics of how to respect the existing dam on the east side of the reservoir. That's something we haven't really gotten into yet because it's still at a very high level, but obviously we would want to make sure that we are following all the rules and regulations and protocols to make sure that we're not degrading the ability of the dam to hold back the reservoir. So those are, take this for what it's worth. It's a very early vision for what we hope would be a solution for this campus. Moving on, there's the existing buildings are shown in blue, and the proposed buildings are shown in the brown. We would hope to have a new intern accommodations building, which is noted with the number 10 on the screen. That's to the northerly side of the property, as I said earlier, kind of benched into the hill. So it would appear to be 2 stories on the south side, but only 1 story on the north side, overlooking the trail and looking down to the north, down to the Snowflake Lift, down to the trails down on that, in that area. The Griffith Lodge is over on the left side of the screen, noted with a 14, and then we would propose some expansions, which we need for ADA access, fire exits, as well as adding some accessible accommodations for guests and more space for operations. And then there's 2 or 3 other potential buildings for storage and potentially some other employee housing that might be tucked underneath building number 8, which is the logistics building, and on building number 13, which is the storage building. Another piece that I haven't mentioned yet is the parking. Of course, everybody needs parking, and there's a lot of cars for guests as well as staff. And then there's also the vans and trailers, which we would hope to accommodate over by the logistics building number 8, if possible. As I said, it's all very early in the game, but we're trying to find a way to get the pieces of the puzzle to fit on the property and be sequenced and phased as money becomes available for each one of these different uses. See what else, anything I forgot there?
Jamie or Matt, there was at one point a little bit of a discussion as one of those buildings might function a little bit like a visitor center, to just let people know what we do here. Is that 7?
Ideally, if we can keep that building, that's what stays there. And if it has to go away, then ideally we would probably find another space to build a building of that nature or something
Mhm.
like that. But the idea would be to have like a front office, like you would anytime if you've ever taken your kids to camp. That's the kind of feel that we're going for. It's just a little safer. It's a little bit more regulated, and just it's going to look nicer. The aesthetics is going to be incredible.
That makes sense.
Right, and we would also have, some parking spaces for visitors. There'd be ADA access to that building, and then hopefully there may be some housing up above that. It's TBD. That's a very humble and well-loved building, which I think we can repurpose, but other people have thought that maybe would be a challenge, but we're all about the challenges. So, we'll see what happens, but that's the hope, is that there's the red line there is the fence and the gate that delineates the exclusive use area of the lease from the public use area. And we've designed that so that from the public parking area, there would be a crosswalk where people could go and, the public could access the trail. And then beyond that, there'd be enough space for a van and a boat trailer to pull up before they get in the gate. So again, there's a little bit less fewer issues with BOEC traffic versus public traffic on a busy weekend in the summer.
And so maybe you guys could just talk a little bit about sort of what this area currently was designed for as far as how many people and what kind of programming and sort of, when it was designed and then where you are now and maybe your vision for the
Yeah.
future.
As Matt said, that the initial Griffith Lodge was gifted to us, and it was completed, I think, in '92. And that building was designed for a few people to stay and go have an adventure up in the mountains. If any of you remember, back then the road was a four-wheel drive, truly four-wheel drive road,
Mhm.
dirt road from town all the way straight up to it. And so obviously a lot of things have changed since then, including what the wilderness program is doing. So even just when I started, when I was an intern, we were doing 4 to 5 courses in a month. And now we're doing 4 to 5 courses in a day. And so what I've seen grow just in my time here is exponential. And so, we're talking from, 300 to 400 students a year to now we're serving almost 1,100 students a year, which equals almost 4,000 user days. So a user day is each day someone is participating in something with BOEC. And so that's just an incredible increase of number of programs going on, number of students that we can take, and what we're able to do with them. But we're absolutely, we're the space and the calendar are finite. Breckenridge is lovely in the winter, but it's not quite as easy to access for folks that maybe aren't wanting to go skiing, and that's okay. We won't judge people that don't want to ski. But we want to have adventure opportunities for everyone. And so our calendar is smushed, and the amount of people we can fit in the space is finite. And so at this point, we're doing a lot more mobile trips. So people going on our multi-day camping trips just anywhere out in Colorado and Utah. So we're very blessed to have that opportunity. But there are a lot of students that cannot physically do that. They need more care. They need clean running water. They need to keep their bodies clean. They need, a lot of different things that you can't just do camping like that. So when we think about how many folks we can fit in the lodge or how many folks can fit on the site, we are really limited at this point, and we cannot book anymore. This was kind of where it all started. Like Matt said, is, we kind of needed a new ropes course. And if we're going to build a ropes course, shouldn't we make it bigger? If you make it bigger, then you can have more students. But if you make it bigger and more students are coming, then where are you going to put them? So it's all kind of grown a little bit out of that necessity, but that's exactly what we're trying to do, is serve as many folks as possible. There's so much adventure to be had, and right here in Breckenridge, that we'd love to draw these people here, get their families here, get them part of Breck, and enjoying this space, because what we do now is incredible. When folks are coming and they can't quite go camping, they can still come to the Wilderness Campus, and we can set up cots in our accessible canvas tents platforms, or we can just go out on the deck, sleeping on the deck under the stars, something they would never be able to do anywhere else, And so like having those things able to happen for these folks is like such an incredible thing to have. And right here in town, close to services, close to things that they need to have a really good weekend away from their facility or anything like that. So the growth has been exponential, and our ability to serve them is getting narrower and narrower just because we're running out of time and space. So when you can't go camping somewhere off site, we need to stay at the Wilderness Campus. And the beauty of this whole vision is that we've taken all of that into account. Like, thankfully, I've been here long enough to see us grow from there to here, and what could the next 20 years look like. And that's where this plan comes into play. It's really, really planning for that future, and how many more students do we think that we can plan. The idea is to have more than just 1 or 2 groups on the site at a time, which is what we can do. There's tons of space. It's 39 acres up there, but they got to sleep somewhere. So that is really where all of this comes into play. And we've been so meticulous over the years to plan it in such a way that it coexists with our public that comes up there and enjoys the site. At one point, 3 years ago, someone sat outside with a clicker and they counted 400 visitors came up to the F&D Placer and enjoyed the Sawmill Reservoir in one day. And so like there's a lot of things going on in that space, and we want to maintain that as much as possible. So, putting in the trail and putting in the fencing was very thoughtful, because we knew someday we're going to have to change some things. And so making sure that we could get it all in the same space in the future without having to bump out or tear things down or move this or acquire 60 more acres because there aren't, you know. So everything has been very thoughtful and very strategic in how we've been planning and moving so far, and hope to continue to do that.
Thank you. I'm back on, sounds like they need an e-bike rack up there.
To them. Yeah, so that's already something that we've talked about, and right now it's a little busy on the space that we have for
Yeah.
it. But that was absolutely one of the things they were like, we should put one, and I said, yes, you should. You will have interns on those bikes every single day.
All right, we'll work on that. All right, any questions?
This is all really exciting to see, and it was great to go up to this space
Mhm.
and see how special, how unique it is. We know the BOEC is an organization that has just positively impacted so many community members' lives and so many guests' lives. So you talk about potentially phasing this. Do you have an order of priority, or how would you approach this?
If I may,
Please.
there are 6 priorities and they're all priority number 1.
Yeah, we need it all yesterday.
But no, honestly, the ropes course, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Sonia.
Absolutely.
The ropes course is number 1 because it needs to be upgraded because it's kind of out of compliance. And so that's the first push. And I did want to mention that, as Sonia touched on, the new 75-year lease that the BOEC agreed to with the town has allowed the BOEC board and our team to help look forward, like, what's it going to look like? I mean, it's been 49, 50 years. What's it going to look like in another 10, 20, 30, 40 years? I mean, Tony Harris will still be here, kind of hanging out, doing his thing. But for future, this is kind of setting the table for future BOEC boards and members and people to work with, to grow into. But I don't really know that there's a time frame set for the different pieces or priorities, are there?
I would say that it's a bit of a moving target. Our priority is the ropes course moving forward. We are in a bit of a holding pattern. We have engineering in place. We have a design. We have engineering working on the next phase. We're waiting for some Town of Breck parking that is being planned for that public area. And once that is finalized, then the engineering will be completed and we'll know exactly what the cost will be. Right now, it's about $1 million project. Our hope is to have those funds raised probably to begin the building of that. We at first said 27, now we're probably looking at 28 as the years go by or as the months go by. So we need to raise that money. So, that's, if anybody has $1 million lying around, we're happy to take that right now. However, so that is phase 1. And then during that time, we will be working on what the phasing looks like, what the fundraising plan will look like. It's a pretty multi-year fundraising campaign that we'll have to undergo for that property. It'll take us some time to determine, what will the cost for the roads be? We have an initial estimate of pricing probably that is well under what it will end up being, which was about a $10 million project. So it will all depend on what we end up looking at in terms of what is it going to, if we end up with that road going around that way, what's it going to cost to do that? And then that will determine what the other priorities will be. So as I said, it's a bit of a moving target, but phase 1 is the ropes course for sure.
And Sonia, there'll be 3 additional parking spaces in that lot that's town-owned there, and that's supposed to be completed this fall, so before winter.
Great. Love to hear that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
I mean, this is a gem, and I think it plays right into the Breckenridge brand. Tony Harris's craftsmanship on the cabin, it's irreplaceable. We need to support this.
Totally agree.
Others? I would just echo that. Really, support this partnership. We at town council and all of town are super proud of the passion that you all bring to getting everyone into the outdoors and making sure that that's accessible, and really such a part of our lifeblood, right? That brought us all here, and really proud that we can be partners in getting more and more families and kids and adults who might not have that experience any other way. So thank you for that. And thank you to all of you who've had a role in supporting BOEC over the years, because that's just something we can all be proud of for sure. So thanks for the site visit. Fun to get out and
Yeah.
Field trip.
yeah, look at the lake and the mountain at the same time. Doesn't get a lot better than that.
Yeah, on a snowy afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time. We are very fortunate to have an incredibly generous and committed board of directors. And it takes a village to do what we do. We have, very generous donors and sponsors and individuals that support the work we do. So we're grateful to everyone that contributes to the reality of what the BOEC is, and the longtime partnership that we've had with the town of Breck really is been instrumental in our 50-year history. So thank you.
Well, thanks for all the hard work.
Not
All right.
too hard to go
Great
back.
to have you guys. All right. Just want to make sure that everybody knows it's really hard to hear online. So the more we can speak up and speak right into your microphones, that's very helpful. Then we are going to move on to the Breck Create Quarterly Report. Oh, Dick Carlton says he loves the BOEC plan. And he said he can hear now too. So it's all working itself out. I don't know.
Did you get to ask Jean? Ask Jean.
Did.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Tamara with Breck Create. And first of all, we'd like to thank you for your, I would say, over 3-decade investment of utilizing the arts for non-arts outcomes in the areas of economy, healthy communities, and just a myriad of things, and making the arts district and supporting all of these organizations who enliven that arts district. And so I'm honored to be here with 3 organizations who do that job with their work: Breck Film, Backstage Theater, and the National Repertory Orchestra. So our approach today is to tell the story of our collective impact through each organization's eyes. We are all different in fiscal years, schedule, mission, and program by design. And we hope that you leave here with a couple of takeaways. One, a broader perspective of just how much each organization contributes to our community's character and vibrancy. And 2, how Breck Create actually provides the complementary, I'll steal a term from childcare, wraparound programming to round out the experiences of what these amazing organizations provide on the district. Each organization has about 5 minutes to share some key points from the summer season. I ask that you save your questions until we are through all of the presentations. And then you can ask questions to a particular organization or to the group on subjects, related to the future or in reaction to the presentation or packet material. So the common thread between all of our organizations is that we provide memorable experiences in the town's cultural venues for all who live, work, or play here in Breckenridge. And so to get us back in the spirit of summer on this snowy day, we have a bit of a refresher video to set the tone.
It's nothing like everyone watching you, May. Sorry.
I can attest to that.
Cool.
Well, hi, I'm Gary Martinez. Maybe somebody doesn't know me here, but that's okay. I apologize right up front. Instead of getting Kate McCluskey or Cynthia Gordon, you get me tonight. But we have our first big meeting, our first board meeting after the festival tonight. And we also have our Classics Club going at the Eclipse tonight. So everybody's busy. I got the show. I can tell you really do need to talk into this, don't you? I also apologize. This process came together fairly quickly. The process of all of us coming in to do this quarterly report. And there may be some gaps. I know there's some gaps in our report you'll see here in a moment, but I'll fill those in as we go through. And I guess if this works for you guys, going forward, we can work a little more on it instead of the rushed approach we had this past week or so, and come up with a little more standardized approach. But it's up to you if this is a better approach or not. So first of all, I'll start off with a couple comments about the film industry in general, which I think really helps set the table for the rest of the report. And it's not good. Post-COVID has not been kind to the movie industry. They're still down well over 10% attendance-wise from 2019. It's interesting. Some movie chains seem to be doing better, others not as good. Don't know why, but you've got that dynamic happening. Consumer behavior has changed in a fundamental ways, a lot of fundamental ways since COVID. The streaming subscription services are through the roof. People are just buying those $6.99, $7.99 monthly subscription rates, and compare that to I think the national average for a movie ticket these days is about $10.50 for one movie. So the competition has obviously changed in how people go about satisfying their film needs. People are coming back to theaters. We are seeing that at the Eclipse, but mainly for the big blockbusters. The other movies are doing okay, but not nearly as good as you would have expected, like pre-COVID, back in 19 and 18. But the Barbie, Barbenheimer, we've got a couple more big ones coming up this year that the people are out for those, but not as in general as they used to. The release of movies for a while during COVID, you probably knew that the release of the films were simultaneous with going to streaming. So the movie theaters had no advantage. They would at times be, the same day it would be on the streaming service. That's changed back a little bit. The former lag was 90 days. It's 15 days or so now on average, but at least it's going back in the right direction. And I would say, and this is more of a personal view, but I would say that the problems in the movie industry aren't all just COVID related. The movie industry right now I think they've gotten timid. They're afraid of making some movies. And at the same time, you've got the streaming platforms, Netflix and Amazon and HBO and all the others. They're spending billions of dollars each year on new programming. So it's a pretty interesting situation. So with that sparkling, really upbeat kind of introduction, let me tell you that we're feeling a lot better locally. We're, I believe, bucking the trend a little bit, and I'll be reporting on both the film festival as well as the Eclipse. And starting with the Eclipse, and I guess that's up there right now. Oh, I'm sorry, no, excuse me, go back to the festival, excuse me, my fault. Yeah. You'll see some of the things, over 89 films this year. We'll talk a little bit more about educational programs and such in a couple minutes. But moving down to the fiscal part of this slide, we had the highest revenue ever in our film festival history this past year, just a few weeks ago. That is fabulous. That tells me that things are moving in the right direction here for us. 5% increase in pass sales, 37% up in standalone sales are just people walking up and getting an individual ticket, not a pass holder. Revenues are split up, as you saw there, we're getting a lot of visitors, a lot of people from out of town coming in for movies. What you don't see up there, and I'll fill just one of the gaps I told you about, we sold 4,260 tickets for the festival this year. That's 15% up from 24. That's a great number for us. That total number of seats is only about 1,000 seats behind what we are doing in 19 and before. So we're not back to the 2019 level yet, but we're gaining on it quite well. And also back in 19, we had 4 venues. We used Riverwalk Center. We used Breck Theater, Backstage Theater building. Obviously the Eclipse. And in those days, we were also using the CMC auditorium, which gave us a chance to show even more movies. So some of the difference now is related to just having one fewer venue, but that was at our choice. Opening night this year, we had a huge crowd, 650 seats. There's about 750 in the Riverwalk Center, so that's a huge night. Sellouts, we had 5 sellouts at the Breck Theater this year. We had about 4 more just within a few people of being sellouts at the Eclipse Theater. So I guess maybe in summary on the festival, we're regaining the momentum. I think we're in strong shape going forward. Last year, you could see it happening last year. Things really started to break loose again last year. We sold a lot more passes than we had for several previous years. And this year we topped that as well. So things appear to be, maybe the post-COVID hangover is starting to go away here, but not quite gone for us yet. But that's the festival. Moving on to the Eclipse. You can go through those things as I look at some other issues here, but I'll just report to you that year-to-date tickets, that is up there, I believe, in the second major bullet, 7,645 tickets. That's a year-to-date number. Right now, we're behind 24 in total ticket sales at the Eclipse. Not far, but definitely back. We don't know how last year or this year is done just the previous year. So you may recall that Breck Film took over the operation of the Eclipse Theater in 2021. Still, with a huge COVID hangover at that time, but we didn't have any at all sales information, ticketing sales information from previous years. That was the previous owner. She had her way of keeping books, and we didn't get the chance to get any of that information. So we really don't know how well they were doing then, but being a frequent moviegoer myself, I can say that Karen Litzman, who ran the theater, was doing a good job. I think she had at least the number of people we're doing, getting back to right now, at least, maybe better. Demographics there, you can see there's Summit County and Park County people, and so on. Theater usage, one of the things that came up in the survey was the usage of the arts facilities. You're not going to have any problem with usage numbers on the Eclipse Theater. We're in it for movies, regular movie nights, a little over 300 nights a year. And on a little bit on this slide, but the next slide when we get to it, you don't have to jump there yet. You'll see that we've been reaching out, and actually we don't have to reach out much. Everybody wants to use the theater for various other things. And that's a good thing. We're generally closed on Monday and Tuesday nights for regular film presentations, but we're hardly ever really closed at all when you look at the other numbers. So we are projecting at this point, given, and you can go to the next slide actually now, maybe it's a good time to do that. When you look at the other community events that have happened so far this year, 14 with the library, other 18 with some of the groups are listed down below that. That, as well as the next 2 months of regular film nights being open, we're going to be around 330 nights open. Out of 365, that's less than a day off a week. So you don't have any problem with usage as it relates to the Eclipse Theater. Staying on this slide for a moment, I just say that one of the highlights of the last couple of years is the Keystone Science School collaboration with Breck Film on the girls STEM program. Young ladies, about 40 this past year came over. This is about the third or fourth year, I believe. And they get some training from real filmmakers with real equipment and all the real whistles and bells that you can imagine. And they learn about filmmaking. And on Sunday morning, for a couple of years, we were having their, they then get to show their films, and the parents show up, and it was at the Breck Theater, which was, we were busting at the seams. So we've done it in the Riverwalk the last couple of years. It's certainly a lot more seats there, but it's, 200 to 300 people there every year to watch the girls, the movies they've made. So moving finally onto challenges and other things. The movie business isn't a real, as it relates to the theaters. The movie business is really highly profitable for some people, but the theaters they don't make as much. We pay a lot of money in terms of the fees to show the movie. So if you have just say a $10 ticket to make the math easy, a blockbuster movie will be charging 60%. $6 out of the $10 go back to the distributors and back to the movie makers. It varies. Other movies are a lot lower, but that's still it's an issue. It's not an issue that's going to be able to go away. It's just the way it is. Sponsorships have been checkered for us the last couple of years. We're getting good sponsorships. They last a couple of years and we're out looking for new ones. Another one, and of course the staff put this together and they had to put in high cost of living in the community, but we all knew that. Opportunities going forward. A lot of buzz about Sundance. They'll start in, I believe they're still going to have their initial festival in Boulder starting in January of 27. The date on that might change. It'll be 27, but maybe not January. But that has caused a lot of interest. Denver Film has had a lot of discussions with Sundance about partnerships and doing things together on that. And some of the other regional festivals like ours, we're waiting to be included in some of those discussions. We were told that we were going to have those sometime this coming year. We look forward to that. We don't believe Sundance moved here just to bully over and roll over everybody, but to really, there's a huge film festival infrastructure in the state of Colorado right now. You got them all. Aspen, Vail, of course, Breck, Telluride, pretty big one there. Boulder has a great festival. Crested Butte, there's tons. And I think that infrastructure is something that actually helped Sundance decide that Colorado's the right place to land. But we'll see how those discussions go. Haven't had, as I said, any yet. But I think there's some great opportunities to perhaps being partners on some of the program they do during their festival at facilities like ours. So we'll see. We did a lot better this year. I should have said this earlier in terms of the earned media. We had a lot of coverage this year about our festival, including a couple big interviews on Channel 4 and 9, which was great for us. And we're optimistic. I have to admit that the RFP and the whole discussion about this arts master plan, I rolled my eyes. I said, really, another master plan, we're going to do it? But I got to tell you, there's been great progress on that, and I guess that's an opportunity. I see a lot of promise in that effort, and hopefully we can come out the other side with some a better way for all of us to work together and maybe make things even better on the arts scene as it relates to Breckenridge. I had one quick request of you guys, and if you say no, it won't break my heart, but I have to leave. As I said, I have the meeting, and I'm going to wait till this presentation is over. But you also have the RFP on for the rest of the Arts Master Plan a little bit later in this agenda. If there's any chance to move that up to right after, Shannon is giving me the dirty eye. Look at her. If there's any
Thank
chance
you
to
for
move
your
that up,
comment. We will discuss and
I'd love to be able to hear the reaction to the RFP.
Okay, and just so you know, all of our meetings are taped, so you can always watch it after if
Great.
we're not able to comment.
And I'm done, and I hope I didn't go way past 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Lots of exciting things happening. We're gonna have Jackie from the theater.
You sit here, I'll get out of your way.
Hi, everyone. All right, I am Jackie Stone, producing artistic director of Breckenridge Backstage Theater. I'm using my theater voice
Good
today. Okay, so just some highlights. As Gary said, we kind of moved quickly on this, so I tried to keep some really just top line pieces of information from primarily just this last quarter, but you'll see a little bit from the year as a whole as well. Just some overall season highlights for the theater. We are also seeing that we are not back to pre-pandemic levels, but things are increasing. We increased audience members across the entire year by about 700 patrons, which is quite a bit. Throughout our season, we presented 3 world premiere shows that were created in-house, one of them being collaboration in BIFA with Brett Create at the end of the summer. We had 5 Henry Award nominations. What is a Henry Award? Does anyone know? It's Colorado's highest honor in theater for excellence. So every year they come out to judge all of the productions that we do and that everyone does across the state of Colorado. And the theater was honored with 5 nominations, and I wrote this before we won 2 of those. Yeah. And just had a lot of new artists working in Breck for the first time, some incredible locals and guest directors that were brought in. This is kind of our art making bucket that we call, like making the actual art. Of course, we have a lot of community efforts as well. People that are community actors and designers who are in productions and behind the scenes across the year. We had about 250 volunteers this past season working in some really key areas and like making sure they built the set correctly so it's safe. All the way to our ticket takers, so all different levels of engagement. We increased our youth participation in our annual student enrichment show, which is a professional production we do each year with youth participants and professionals around them. And we increased participation in our summer camps and our literacy tour, which is a 2-year-old program that brings shows to ages 0 to 5. We call that baby theater. And we're partnering with Summit County Libraries to promote literacy. So we're doing adaptations of best-selling children's books with an encouragement to get your library card immediately. So all of those programs grew, and we had a lot of community partner involvement this year with BIFA. Had a really big relationship with Building Hope this year, working on a production specifically around mental health, positive mental health, and had therapists in the lobby at every performance that we worked with them. And we had some new one-night events inside the space as well. We hosted Kelly for a meet and greet, a mayor's night, which was so fun. Women in the Arts, we did a special screening of La La Land. So we're trying to have more one-night events as we build our capacity as well. I liked Gary's note of how many days of the year the venue was used. That's information I'd love to come back with at a future meeting. And in terms of finance picture, we had a lot of fundraising success this year. Sponsorships by businesses are way, way down. And that's something that we're hearing across the board with lots of nonprofit businesses because things are really tight. But we had a lot of success with individual giving and with foundation support, and just kind of naming out, Town of Breck made some significant increases for all of us. So I'm just mentioning ours. So we thank you for that. That makes a humongous difference. We had a new grant award from Rotary Club, and we're still like kind of crunching our final numbers, but we think for the first time since I've been here for 3 years, and I think in the company's history, we're looking at an expected year-end net of over $100,000 due to some really strategic moves. So I'm just gonna do a couple more little recaps here. This is specifically our summer, just from June to August, middle of August. This is all of the activity just over the 2.5 months. 7 weeks of our primary main professional production of Young Frankenstein, 9 weeks every day of programming of summer camps for elementary and middle school, 4 weeks of our Winnie the Pooh baby theater tour to the libraries and at our theater, 4 workshop performances of The Great Divide as part of BIFA, and 1 annual gala, all inside of that like 70-day period. You can see our audience numbers, but I'll just give a little bit of a recap there. Across all of these summer programs, we had an increase of 23% in audiences in all of these buckets. And I just listed here some of our key summer community partners as well that help us make everything happen. There's Winnie the Pooh on the left and Christopher Robin, just to make you smile. And last but not least, just want to leave you on a happy note. There's some fun from Young Frankenstein. Thanks.
What's up next, Jackie? What's your
We'll be doing our holiday show, Jacob Marley's Christmas Carol, which is Jacob Marley's take on the classic story.
Thank you very much. Lots of fun happening. Dave?
Hello, Mayor, council members. Thank you. My name is Dave DePeters. I'm with the National Repertory Orchestra. Thank you all for having us here today. And thank you to Tamara for sharing her chair and allowing us to be here. It does, I have to say, feel a little bit like a congressional hearing, though. I tend to get a little nervous. I keep repeating to myself, I can neither confirm nor deny. So first of all, again, thank you for allowing us to be here. The National Repertory Orchestra is first and foremost an education organization, providing real-world experience and life-changing programs for our musicians and the community. And I'd like you to know that everything we do for our musicians and the community goes through this education lens. In short, we had quite a good year this year, and I'm very happy to be joined by the rest of the arts groups, basically being able to say the same thing. Over our 8-week festival, we had 81 young professional musicians attend, which means that $810,000 were awarded for merit-based scholarships through our fundraising efforts. Over 140 events in Summit County, 85% were free and open to the public. 4,000 local youth and families were exposed to music and education through our programs, and we had 19 guest conductors and professional educators come through the festival this year. A quote from our musician, "The NRO has been one of the most memorable and transformative summers of my life. I made lifelong friends and learned so much new music, all in one of the most gorgeous parts of the country. I know it's an experience I will carry with me throughout the rest of my career." To talk specifically about the Riverwalk Center, Oh, I guess I have to do this. Sorry. To talk specifically about the Riverwalk Center. So we did 15 ticketed performances, 4 of which were what you would call popular in nature. 11 were classical in nature. That's about a 28%. 28% of our programming at the Riverwalk Center through those ticketed events were popular performances. We had over 7,700 people attend through the ticketed events, which is about a 69% average per performance. For the size of the Riverwalk Center, it's 750 seats. In addition to that, we had 65 free events at the Riverwalk Center through 55 open rehearsals, 2 free concerts, including 1 family and kids concert, and 8 educational events. In 2025, the National Repertory Orchestra utilized the Riverwalk Center 6 days per week for 8 weeks, holding only 14 evenings for performances. This left 42 evenings available for others to use. It is true that when the Riverwalk Center is not used by other organizations, we utilize the space for education, individual practice, and other organizational issues. But this does not preclude an organization from utilizing the Riverwalk Center. We have never, as far as I can recall, declined another organization's request to use the Riverwalk Center when it did not conflict with an NRO performance. Our concert schedule typically are Wednesdays and Saturday nights, and our 2026 season is already set for the year, but other evenings, including many Friday nights, remain available for 2026. For ticket pricing, we try to keep our pricing very much affordable for all residents here in Summit County. Individual tickets go from $21 to $58. Individual youth is from 17 and below, and that's holding at $5 per ticket. We have a local family pass for $192, which includes 12 concerts, which means every person can come to a concert for $4 a ticket. And we have a locals discount, $4 off for full-time Park and Summit County residents if you're under 40 years old. This has been an amazing season in terms of programming and quality of performance as one of our patrons. The range of works this year has been outstanding, including both basic repertoire as well as lesser known but interesting works. Great year. So in Breckenridge, but outside of the Riverwalk Center, we did 15 free events at 9 different Breckenridge locations, as well as free education programs. We did 12 education programs at 6 different Breckenridge locations. I want to tell you, this is just the Breckenridge events. This does not include the rest of the stuff that we do throughout Summit County. In fact, we have an alumni string quartet that came out of COVID that we now continue to use. We pay these 4 musicians who have been through the festival before. They come back, and their sole purpose is to do engagement and education for our youth and our visitors and our residents here in Summit County throughout the 8 weeks. In addition, we had 16 partnerships with other not-for-profit organizations. You can see them there. Some of this is to help them raise money. Some is to support a fundraiser that they're giving, and some is to raise awareness for our patrons to understand what other great not-for-profits are doing in the community. The NRO musicians coming to Breck Montessori are so inspirational. My daughter always comes home and wants to improvise on whatever we have on hand. Just speaking from our experience, you can't imagine the impact. It's been huge. We talk about it all year long and look forward to it every year. So some final thoughts. There is a typo here. I apologize. For just Breckenridge events through the 8-week summer festival, we did 92 free events. We did 17, not 7, apologize. 17 paid events for a total of 109 events in 8 weeks. The town of Breckenridge has typically invested between $25,000 and $30,000, and we are, along with the in-kind that we receive through the Riverwalk Center, and we are grateful for that. This year, we received $100,000 from you all, and we cannot thank you enough for that incredibly generous support. That 100,000 plus our in-kind made this, helped make this a tremendously successful year. That return on investment for the town of Breckenridge, though, is $2.25 million that we bring back in economic impact to the town of Breckenridge. And that's based on the Americans for the Arts website. In totality, for all of the things we do in and around the region, we had over 23,000 people attend one of our programs. 86% of those programs that we presented were free and open to the public. We have a 94 net promoter score, which I have no idea what that means, but I'm told that's pretty good. I had 4,300 children impacted by our education and events, and 100% of our audience members at the free performances stated that it enhanced their experience here in Summit County. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Exciting to hear how many folks were involved and how many places you were this summer. Carly.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
I'm Carly. I'm the Senior Director of External Relations with Breck Create.
And I'm Jill. I'm the Senior Director of Programs and Campus Experience with Breck Create.
Yeah, and we wanted to share some of our highlights, kind of picking up off of where Tamara last reported, ending with some highlights in July. And so we're sharing some overall numbers through year to date, since our fiscal year ends in December, but then also we'll share some highlights from August as well. We think it's been a very successful summer for Breck Create. We're really one of our strongest yet. With some tremendous large-scale events, a couple of those being 4th of July and Spark, some really major investments that you all made that we are very grateful for, and just thank you for trusting Breck Create with those investments, and because of that, we've delivered on some results that we're really proud of. Across both these new activations and some of the other things that we've done throughout the year, some of the results we saw significant impact in attendance, in earned media, and then in just creative moments, joy sparked, which we can't always measure, but that's, not everything we do can be measured, but those meaningful moments, they do happen every day, from a toddler experiencing their first art class, squishing paint between their fingers, or friends gathering on the lawn for Air Stage Après, kids running free, or a candlelight vigil during Dia de Muertos and remembering loved ones lost. I think those moments really make our work worthwhile and are what connect community and friends, and really show us the importance of art and creativity. So we want to show some of those too, in addition to, of course, the all-important data that also points to our impact. So we'll share some of both with you today.
And I just want to add, from a sort of on-the-ground perspective this summer, and this is my first summer with Breck Create as an employee, and there really was a great buzz around the campus, a vibrancy and enthusiasm that was really palpable, and that's been very inspiring and motivating for me and the extended team. And seeing the impact and overall community pride in the programs we worked very hard to create really felt very rewarding. And so we're excited to just share a little bit more on that. So Spark was a very special project, and it was one that brought so many people together to experience this magical large-scale art moment, and one that will be remembered for many years to come. And it was really joyful to see community members and visitors alike hanging out, lingering, and just spending time with each other. People are really craving these shared experiences now more than ever, and I really do think this was the right project at the right time. As you know, projects like Spark usually require long lead times, so we jammed a lot into planning into just a few short months. And while there were some complexities to work through, we were both delighted and excited to make this happen. I mean, this was a heavy lift for many, and the whole event went off without a hitch, thanks to the hard work and close collaboration of all involved, from town leadership and staff to BTO to Public Works, and to the Breckenridge Events Committee and to so many others. So again, a huge thanks to all of you. Presenting the US premiere of Spark was a major coup for our town and community, and one that I personally am very proud of. And I also want to mention that it was just perfect how it aligned beautifully with the town's dark sky certification. So again, thank you all for helping to make this happen.
And we can report that people did come. We had 11,500 people register, and we, based on some data that we've looked at through BTO and Datafy, about that many people attending as well. And this same weekend compared to 2024 weekend, we saw a 17% increase in visitor trips. So it definitely got people here. People were talking about it. On Sunday night, the last night of Spark, I went and grabbed a snack at Ollie's and was talking to the owner of the restaurant, and he said every single night that you've done Spark, everyone sitting around this bar has been talking about it. So I think whether you loved the artwork or you didn't, you talked about it. It demanded an opinion, and it got strangers connecting, which I think is a testament to really great art. Spark was also accessible. It was free. It was presented bilingual, or all of our marketing materials were presented bilingually. I just want to give a shout out to Floor, if you're here. Thank you so much for the outreach and helping us translate our marketing materials into Spanish, and giving us some great recommendations on Hispanic influencers to work with. The result was a really beautifully diverse community gathering and community members celebrating together. We also saw massive social media reception and visibility, the largest I've ever seen in my art career, with 2.3 million people seeing our content on social media, just specific to Spark. And then we had some really significant earned media as well, an international PR hit. We had mentions in national publications like Smithsonian Magazine, Travel and Leisure, some art publications like Art Daily, Broadway World, and then more regional like Westward and 5280. And we really want to thank BTO for their partnership on that, and just elevating this and elevating the creative brand of Breckenridge through all of these publications. And then now BIFA as a whole.
So BIFA was so fun to program. We had a wonderful diversity of events and a packed schedule, which I'm realizing is both our strength and weakness. From Bill Orsich's immersive installation on Moonstone, to Chuggabush on Illinois Creek and Little Mountain, to concrete jams and Kishibashi at the Riverwalk, there really was something for everybody. For the Trail Mix program, we really focused this year on working with artists who really connected visitors and community members alike to art and nature, really focusing on using natural materials. And I think the outcome was very, very special. And I also want to add, we have a wonderful artist in residence program, but I've been really looking at it over the last year. And I think what is more successful is when we lean into that program to where the artist in residence are really supporting the core programs in a very sort of public and community-driven way. And so Justin Tyler Tate's installation along Moonstone, I think, was a wonderful example of that, and also our current Precious Plastic program. And, very often when there is a project that is moving new work forward, there is very often grant opportunities around those initiatives. I also wanted to just share this lovely quote about Anna Tsoukalarkis's installation, or her many installations throughout BIFA. And I have never expected as an Indigenous kid off the res to see this. to see our work recognized in somewhere like Breckenridge. Thank you for having this. And I think that was just a lovely message to where, you know, folks who some often feel marginalized felt that their cultures were being celebrated as part of BIFA as well, but also a reminder that Indigenous cultures are very much alive and thriving. And I also wanted to mention, and again, I know it's already been said, but Breck Rewind was an incredible moment in the middle of BIFA. And so a huge congrats to Breck Film and Breck History for coming together to create that. It was a very special evening for those of us who've been in the county a very long time. It was a wonderful trip down memory lane. And also the Great Divide. Having a full house for all of those presentations was incredible. And you could just feel the community pride and joy in those spaces. So congratulations to both of those organizations to really contributing to BIFA's success.
And we did see an increase in participation in this year's BIFA, about a 63 increase from 2024. And we also saw that more visitors are intentionally traveling to Breckenridge to BIFA more than ever before. We did a survey with Intercept Insights and got that piece of data from that. All of these insights, all of these things that we're learning, whether it's feedback from the Cultural Master Planning Survey, surveys we do in-house, feedback we hear from the Breckenridge Events Committee, the Lodging, Restaurant, and Retail Associations, those meetings that we're attending, partner organizations, all of this input, we're listening to it. It is really important to how we plan, and it helps us refine, evolve, make future programming even stronger. Also your input as well. So we adapt to community needs, and we want to make the best use of our resources and listen to what it is that everybody wants and needs out of the arts and creativity. But this really has, as I mentioned, been one of their best summers yet. And it's because of all the community partnerships, your support. We are excited to keep building on this success together. I think we're really positioning Breckenridge as a model for how mountain and resort communities can elevate and differentiate through art and creativity. So thank you again for your trust, your leadership, and your support.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Something.
And then we also have one more short video, if you will indulge us, that just kind of encapsulates our summer.
The community that I have found in Breck Create is unlike any place else.
Breck Create and its attraction, it's a part of community.
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 It's community. It starts there.
We've created just this fabulous mix of performing arts and visual arts and creative craft arts. It's endless.
There's so many people that don't believe that they're an artist. And I think everyone is an artist. And I think all it takes is putting the medium in front of you and trying it and asking questions and playing with it. And then you find that you're an artist.
It's a fun video.
Thank you.
Thank you guys all for your presentations today. It was really fun to relive the summer with you all and really successful numbers, which is awesome to see. And really, this was a terrific format. I think it was very helpful for the whole crew to be presenting as one big group, and really nice to see that. Did anyone have questions or other comments? No? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
We do a quick break. Sure. All right, 'cause I need a call.
Gary, so probably we shouldn't do the RFP now because it's on the agenda for later and they're not likely there's other people who want to participate in the conversation, but there could be.
In case.
I'll listen to the,
Okay, perfect.
thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're gonna take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back. All right. We are going to jump back in. And we are going to start with Planning Commission decisions. A really good discussion there.
I just really appreciated the way that staff facilitated the discussion about the comp plan, and I thought it was really great and something we should kind of stick a pin in as that process kicks off.
Agreed. Lots of good information. All right. We are going to move on to legislative review. And we're going to start with the noise ordinance amendment, first reading.
Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. I'm going to present this noise ordinance amendment for your review tonight. There have been two changes in state law, one via the legislature and one via the state Supreme Court regarding the state's noise regulations. The first one actually occurred a little while ago, but that's okay. It changed the decibel levels that are permitted in residential and commercial areas in the town. And so we just need to adjust our ordinance to match that because it is the noise regulations or the state noise laws are considered matters of statewide concerns, and they do apply to us as a home rule town. The other piece that was a little interesting is that the state Supreme Court has recently decided there was an exception provision in the state's noise laws that allowed a local government to issue a permit to an entity to exceed the state noise levels or the acceptable dBA. It's a sort of complicated decision, but essentially the Supreme Court decided that the language in the state law really only applied to property that was either owned or leased by a local government or a nonprofit. So it just doesn't apply to private property, basically. So that is a change. We haven't issued a lot of these exceptions. We do have that language in our code. We haven't done a lot of them, but we wanted to make sure that we were aligned with state law as it sits currently. This is an issue for a lot of other jurisdictions. And so CML is likely to try to achieve some sort of legislative fix to this in the next session. But in the meantime, we'll be in compliance. Any questions?
Billy, what is the practical impact of this? Like, is there an instance that this will affect, and is there places that we need to communicate this for people to know?
Not that I'm aware of. We've discussed, we haven't issued any exception permits in a while. Our code already exempts property that we own, like the Riverwalk Center, from the noise regulations. And so it doesn't apply to public property already. We've sort of issued a blanket exemption for that. So there just aren't a lot of instances where we've had this issue. It wouldn't apply for any sort of permitted, like over this next summer, if there's like the air stage in the, if it's in a public right of way or on any public property, it doesn't apply to them. So we haven't identified a situation yet where we think it's going to affect something in town, but it could arise. I'm sure that we will support whatever fix CML seeks this winter or this next legislative session, but we'll see what they come up with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a question for you or for maybe a little bit Carol and Shannon, but I'm curious, just in the interest of being a good fellow community to many cast members who also see this as a pretty big concern, is there anything that's like degrading to their argument by us passing this early? Like, we don't really need to pass it right now. And I don't want to take the wind out of their sails if they're able to get something going.
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I think we're just doing it so that we're in compliance with the law. We can still disagree with the law. There's really you're not losing anything. Because we don't really, there isn't a slight argument that could be made that it doesn't apply to home rule. The court didn't address that piece. So the city of Salida was the one that was the plaintiff or the I'm not sure how that ended up at the Supreme Court, but they were a party. They were the party in question, and they're statutory town. So there is maybe that piece out there that you could say that we don't have to do this. And that's, if you guys want to take that stance, we can do that. We talked about it and just felt that it was prudent to just, since we needed to make the fix on the decibel levels anyway, we felt like we might as well accomplish this at the same time. We can change it back if the law changes, but for now, we're just in compliance.
Okay, that makes sense.
And if it is something that we do want to support communities, we think it's beneficial for our own community, there is going to be legislation introduced this upcoming cycle. And if we decide that's something important to our community, we can vocally support that.
Great. Yeah, I think it also makes sense that we just have to be in compliance with the law. There are other probably laws that we don't agree with either, but.
Right. So I just don't know that it gains us or anybody else anything to say, well, we don't need to change this right now because we're going to wait to see what happens this legislative session and maybe it doesn't apply to us. It just seemed prudent to go ahead and make the change now. But if you guys feel like maybe we want to wait, we can do that too. Because like I said, we're not really granting many of these variances or exceptions. So it's worth a discussion.
A small part of the real overall noise ordinance, the variance piece of it. And we could amend our ordinance to catch any change that might come down the road without having to reinvent the wheel on the whole ordinance.
Okay. Dick, did you have any questions? I don't know if he's able to speak. All right, I'm going to assume that's a no. Okay. Are we ready for tonight then? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Oh,
Sorry, Kelly, it took me a minute to unmute. I do not have questions.
Okay, sorry to put you on the spot. Okay, moving on to Comcast head-end facility lease. Yes. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present for first reading the renewal of a 10-year lease with Comcast Communications for a 850 square foot head-end facility at 524 Wellington Road. This facility is off of Campion Way, directly across from where the BOEC is. The facility distributes services throughout Breckenridge, and this lease will ensure uninterrupted broadband services. The renewal has a lease rent increase from $3,359 to $5,700 per month with a 5% annual escalations. And staff's recommendation is to approve this on first reading. I'm available for any questions.
Questions for Chris?
No? Good. Excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. An ordinance to approve 2026 mill levy. Welcome, Pam.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you find the ordinance setting the 2026 property tax mill levy within the town of Breckenridge at 5.07. This is submitted for first reading. The 5.07 mill levy is the amount that the town is authorized to impose, and according to state law, cannot be increased without an election. This same mill rate has been applied consistently within the town since 2014. We are forecasting that the 5.07 mill levy will result in property tax revenues of $5.3 million for 2026. This mill levy is a critical tool to help achieve town council's long-term goals. By securing these additional funds, we can invest in key areas such as infrastructure, housing, public safety, and sustainability, which all align with our commitment to responsible stewardship of our resources. The 5.07 mills are for the purpose of defraying expenses in the general funds. As we consider this mill levy proposal, we are mindful of our commitment to fostering a community that values diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this initiative aligns with our core values by ensuring that all residents, regardless of background or socioeconomic status, can benefit from the enhanced services that this mill levy funds. Staff recommends that Town Council approves the mill levy at 5.07 mils for the first reading, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Pam. Questions?
You mentioned that the 5.07 is a ceiling. Does that ceiling expire at any point? Does that have to get renewed or go back to the voters?
It would have to go back to the voters in order to change it.
Right, but does that level expire at any point, or is that in perpetuity?
It is in perpetuity.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to the adoption of the 2026 budget and 2030 capital improvements plan. Hi, Tracy.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am so happy and excited to present the resolution to adopt the 2026 budget. That also includes approving the capital improvement plan and to make the full appropriations for the funds for 2026. The memo highlights the methodology around our budget process. It does take into consideration the out years, but this is purely to focus on the 2026 budget. The total appropriation of funds that shows in the document is just slightly over 200 million. That does include transfers. And just to let you know, we did have a last minute change. It is a net zero effect, but we decided to have a reclass of one expense out of the special projects fund up to the general fund. That will be part of the update for signature, but it is net zero between the two.
Okay, good to hear. Any questions on the budget, in particular 2026?
If I may, so I would ask that well, I guess it's a resolution, but the one that was handed out today is the version that we want to approve versus the one that was in the packet.
Great point.
Clear on that. And there are some copies up on the table behind.
Okay.
And then Scott, thanks for the note on the CIP. It sounds like the Park Avenue kind of improvements, those will come to us at a later date then, it sounds like, to get addressed.
Yeah, so as you recall, the CIP, the numbers remain the same, but there was going to be some shuffling of projects for 26 to accommodate the additional expense for the planning for the South Park and Main intersection. So that was going to be presented back to you in terms of what that might look like, both on a staff time as well as funding time, but no total number, no number change at all for the actual budget, just some shuffling of projects.
Great. So that KPI is looking good for 2026, some shuffling, and that makes perfect sense. So thanks for adding and let me know that 150 and the 250 got added back in. That's great. So appreciate that.
All right, everyone ready for tonight? Okay. Thanks, Tracy. Okay, we're into manager's report. Public projects update.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Did a brief memo for you today, updating on both Broken Lance and previewing a CDOT proposed project to pave Park Avenue in 2027. There is an action there where CDOT is looking for concurrence on doing some of that work overnight to alleviate some of the congestion that we might see from detours.
Well, that's great. Questions? Yeah.
I had a quick question for you. And just more of, as we plan for the summer of 2027 and looking at that work by CDOT being done overnight, perhaps that would make a lot of sense for our commuters and people are going in and out. Does that have any negative impacts on any residents with the lights, the noise, throughout the night, would that impact, are we worried about it impacting anyone negatively for overnight work?
Do you think there'd be some impacts to residents along the Park Ave corridor overnight?
And
But we have to weigh those impacts to the possibly countywide impacts that those detours could give us. So yeah, it is a bit of a lose situation.
Well, I guess, 'cause I think about like, if you're driving home from the airport at like, 1 in the morning, right? And they have those giant lights and they're jackhammering and stuff.
Don't think our operation will be quite that robust compared to the I-70 night work.
And I think as we have almost 2 years to plan of just kind of identifying impacted residents and
Mhm.
trying to start that communication sooner.
We will definitely assist CDOT in that outreach. As we noted in the memo, this is a CDOT project managed and funded, but we're always here to partner and support. And we'll definitely provide resources for outreach and help get the word out.
And along those lines, I just wanted to once again praise the Broken Lands project in the communications department on the outreach and getting people on board and really getting buy-in and then keeping them informed throughout the project. I think that it's an example to be followed for our projects moving forward.
We had a great synergy between Public Works and our outreach department on that, and I think it was very successful. I do have one correction from the memo I forgot to mention. We'll be doing the landscaping out of Broken Lands in 2026. I believe it says 2027 in there.
Yep. I have a question about when you get a proposal or notified that CDOT is going to do this project, does that automatically trigger us to look at like any pipelines and infrastructure, anything that's in the roadway that we might need to update and like work with them during that time? Or is that just not even something that we could do because they manage their schedule and everything? I just would hate for us to do this twice, and we always are ripping something out. So is there something that we need to be ripping that out for?
Not that comes to mind. We do look at that because if we're going to get some nice new asphalt,
Right.
the last thing we want to do is cut it right away. So we'll be double checking all of that. But also, as you know, plans change and there's always something that comes up. But I think we should be pretty well prepared for that.
Okay. Great. All right. Anything else? Thanks, Shannon.
We all okay with
Oh
the
yeah,
night work?
we're okay with the night work.
Okay.
Message appropriately. Thank you. Matt.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Two quick updates that just clarifying in the packet. Other than the two things that are called out in there, our service this winter is going to be the exact same as it was last winter. So we're not removing or adding any service. The trolley is going an extra 3 hours at night, which is fantastic. And then the new stop at the Soul Center is really the only change that we have this year. So happy to answer any question.
Great.
And you just stated that the service is the same as last year. How did you accomplish keeping the green route the same service timing while adding Vista Verde 2 for the winter, which we didn't have last year, and the Soul Center?
We added the green route Vista Verde stop in late December last year. So we did have it in the winter at some point, maybe it's January, but we did add it in there. We are cutting it very close, so we don't have any extra time. Our drivers are kind of having to jump out to use the restroom. So it's a very tight turnaround. Ideally, we do want to move to a 20-minute timeline at some point, but that requires an extra bus, which we don't have at the moment.
So, and just to confirm, the green route will have a stop at Vista Verde 2.
As now, yes, it'll have that the same, and then we'll add a stop at the stop sign at the Soul Center.
Fantastic. I think that the development will be very, very happy to have that. Appreciate it.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Sustainability.
I like the reminder here. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you had an update on all of the sustainability happenings. I have nothing else to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Jesse, can you remind us what phase 2 consists of for the thermal energy network?
Yeah, actually drilling holes. Yeah, so they're gonna drill test holes to look at the thermal conductivity of the ground and to better understand where those thermal assets are located.
Do we know where they'll be drilling yet?
We don't. We have our kickoff meeting next week and we'll be talking with the consultant at that point.
Great.
To be clear though, I should say it is within the proposed zone. So we're looking at, somewhere in this general vicinity between here and Watson, but we don't know where exactly.
I think there are some people who are interested in the information that we're going to receive out of this. So I'm hoping that we can do a good job of either having some sort of a, public meeting or just sharing that information around. Because I do think that many of the people who are developing in our community are interested in what this is going to show.
Great. Yeah, and just after the last council meeting and that suggestion, we did go back and write in 2 public meetings for the consultant to come and present, not just the findings of the study, but really kind of a thermal energy network 101 that some of us have seen in the, in recent workshops, but to be able to provide that to the public and to the council.
Great. That's
So
really great.
It is
Thank you very
coming
much.
soon.
Thank you. All right, anything else? Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
All right, we didn't have a housing update, but do we have anything? All right, we good? Okay. Thank you, Lori. Duke.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you have the draft version of the minutes from last week's BOSAC meeting. Happy to take any questions.
Questions for Duke? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting that the Viking was so down on.
Nope. 20-1.
I know. Who knows? Who knows what's going on out there? All right. Committee reports, there are a few in the packet. Any comments? Questions? Financials?
Hello again. In your packet, you have the report that covers the first 9 months of 2025. September is reflective of our August tax collections. Overall, year to date, we're 1.9 million above our 2025 budgeted revenues in the excise fund and behind 200,000 in comparison with prior year. Sales tax is currently flat in comparison with our year-to-date budget and behind $500,000 in comparison with prior year. Accommodations tax is behind 100,000 in comparison with the year-to-date budget and behind 300,000 in comparison with prior year. Real estate transfer tax is ahead 1.8 in comparison with year-to-date budget and 1 million in comparison with prior year. Our net taxable sales year-to-date August 2025 in comparison with August of 2024 is behind 3.14%. Month of July came in stronger in comparison with the month of July. We are behind 3%, seeing slight declines in all the categories, the largest declines in retail and construction. Retail in town in August of 2025 was behind 3.87 in comparison with 2024, and retail out of town was ahead by 3.99% in comparison with 2024. Real estate transfer tax, again, continues to trend strong. We were 300,000 over prior year. Single family homes comprising of 40% of those collections. And I did add Bill's report from the BTO as a little preview of September, where we do see declined in occupied room nights as well as in the daily rate. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions for Pam? Tracy?
All right, so in your packet, you've got the September financials. So I just want to have a little look back, a look forward to where we're going and how we're going to get there. So we started off when we did the budget last year. We believed there was going to be a $20 million deficit for 2025. That is not the case. We have not spent that. And when we go through the budget process, we always do a 2025 projection to see where do we think we're going to go. Based on that review and our level 3 discussion during the budget, we are now estimating a revenue favorability of 2.7 million, favorability in expenditures of 13 million, so ultimately a 15.8 million favorability. So it means that there is only going to be right around about a 4 million deficit for 2025 if we spend everything that we think we're going to spend. Over the next month, once I've closed the books for October, I'm going to be meeting with some departments who are really close to their expenditure numbers to see if we are still on track for what they are estimating. And then at the beginning of December, I will be coming to you to appropriate funds on the for the funds that I know are going to be overspent. There's about 7 of them right now. It only totals a hair over $1 million, which I know it seems funny to come and ask for appropriation for $1 million when we're going to be underspent. But it really comes down to as soon as you are $1 overspent in a fund, I have to come for an appropriation, regardless that I am millions underspent in another fund. But I will be able to come back to you at the beginning of December with a request to appropriate those funds that I think is just going to be slightly over $1 million at this point if we estimate where we're going stays true.
Okay, thanks for that explanation. Questions for Tracy?
Well done.
Thank you both very much. Events.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm sorry, it's a bit loud. You have the memo. What's that? It's
You're
me.
just right.
I know. You have the memo in front of you. It's been a while, but Oktoberfest passed, and I just want to give a big shout out to Lucy and her team at the tourism office for putting that event together. It's such a big lift. I know the weather wasn't cooperative, but it brought so many people to town, and I can speak from our recreation department. It continues to put like the biggest women's hockey tournament in the entire West. Sells out immediately because it's the same weekend as that. Brings, I don't know, 80% of the teams are from out of town and out of state for that tournament, and you know the 5K as well. So just a huge thanks to them for continuing on with Oktoberfest. There's been some other developments since this memo has been written, so maybe I'll give Marika the floor and I can fill in the blanks if needed.
There are still some blanks, just to be clear. I can't fill all of them in. There have been several potential changes to the Rail Jam and concert on the December 18th weekend since this memo came out. We have not had an events committee meeting yet since the changes happened. That meeting will happen on Tuesday, so we will be able to sort some of those things out internally. But we did want to just point out briefly some of the current possibilities we are considering and then some of the concerns that come with them in case there's any really strong thoughts about them. The Rail Jam itself will likely remain at the resort. They will not move the Rail Jam into town. The concert will stay in town. One question about the concert is whether it happens in the Blue River Plaza or in the Schoonover lot. If it happens in Blue River Plaza, we are looking at potentially a day and a half of street closures.
Yeah, and an additional closure from the Uller Thursday closure. We would have another closure, basically a reopen on Thursday night, the 18th, and then a closure again on Friday, the 19th, probably midday, and then reopening post that concert. The biggest reason for that needed closure is just the overflow of what's going to happen in Blue River Plaza. We want to make sure that it's a good spectating space for people. Rockstar is, I do not know the name, but they are talking about a big name DJ, someone that would have a lot of Spotify hits. That's how I figure out if they're famous or not. But so we're just anticipating that it could be a big draw for that demographic.
And there's probably going to be some debate about the best location for that. Obviously, Blue River Plaza comes with a lot of logistical challenges that Schoonover can alleviate. Will the production company have a strong preference for Blue River Plaza? Quite likely. Could they possibly pull the event from town altogether if it's not in Blue River Plaza? Possibly. That's what we don't
Yeah,
really know
so
yet.
some ballooning costs have led to the removal and just some concerns about, so let's first talk about the rail jam. The reason why the rail jam is going to move back to the ski resort is because it's a big infrastructure within the town. They have to build a boneyard. There's additional closures that would move on both sides of that day. So they heard the feedback from town entities and public works staff. So they're like, okay, let's make this easy. Since this is our first year bringing something back, let's move it to the ski resort. Let's do it on Friday afternoon, 3 to 5, make sure it ends while the gondola is still running, and then create that pipeline of people to come off the mountain. They just watched all the pros do the rail jam and like warm up that day, come into town, eat dinner, have a big show that evening to kick off the weekend, because their operations team is pretty heavily inundated with work on Saturday and Sunday, the days of their competition. So their desire, we've talked about different locations for a said concert, and they really want to be front and center and make it a big spectacle of Breckenridge, and they believe that Blue River Plaza is option A for them to put this show on. We understand as an events committee, and we'll talk about this, and that public outreach is so important for something like this. We don't want to, if we're already closing Main Street on Thursday, we want to be cognizant of an additional closure and what it might look like for what Friday evening is, and restaurants and retail shops and everything along those lines. So we've started some of that. I mean, just first and foremost, the call I had before I walked in here today was with Matt Vaughter, who I think would be the most directly affected as the proprietor of Radicato. And he was like, that would be awesome to have it in Blue River Plaza. So I can give you that feedback before I would return, and or Marika can convey a lot of additional public outreach from there.
Can you remind me what you said about the segment that would be closed?
Lincoln to Adams.
Questions or thoughts about this?
What is the toll on Public Works of having that, doing a reclosure after opening to closure? Is that even feasible? Obviously they can do anything, they're amazing, but is this something that we wanted that is pragmatic for us?
So what we've done already for the Uller Parade is we've priced out and maybe have gotten to the point of booking Colorado Barricades to do that for a cost. And I've just gotten a quote for Colorado Barricades to also do it on Friday, and it's about half of the cost of what Thursday would be. So that would pull all efforts. I mean, I won't say all efforts, because I mean, we know there's things, police presence. I wouldn't say all town services are off, but if we have a snow event and there needs to be things happening or something happens, it would not be a drain on Public Works, but there is a cost to that. I know you guys have talked about budgeting these things for 2026. We're still in 2025. So the town and the tourism office would have to come up with those additional dollars to offset. And I can't speak whether or not we could do that in an existing budget, but I'm hopeful we could.
And since James is not here, I will play positive James, having not talked to him about this at all. But the first plan of this was going to involve Public Works trucking all of the snow from the resort into town for the rail jam. So we may have freed up some Public Works capacity that we had already filled. Like, we're not really freeing up capacity because they didn't have it in the beginning, but we could maybe make some sort of trade for something there since we don't need that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, back to the goal is the events committee as a whole has been looking at how do we combine options, like how can we work with a ski resort, and when Rockstar Energy, it's not them, it's a contracted company that puts on events for them, proposed this idea. It seemed from a surface level first events committee meeting, yeah, this sounds like something that we would like to talk to council about, and might be something that the town of Breckenridge would be interested in being a part of, since it's an outside entity producing an event.
John, is there any sort of expected attendance numbers, or do we know how many folks this DJ is supposed to draw in?
I've just heard it's a big name. I imagine it would be well attended. I mean, that's an interesting day, Friday the 19th, as the start. So it's the last, I would say probably every school in America probably has school up until Friday the 19th with where Christmas rolls. So is the next week. So usually Saturday would be a travel day, and we wouldn't see a bump in visitation until Sunday, like leading into that weekend. I mean, it's still going to be heavily visited. I would imagine a Front Range visitation would be high, and then if it's announced, it could drive some visitation prior to coming. And in my last conversation with the group from Rockstar, is like they're less than 60 days out from this, and they want it to be a really cool event, so that they're hesitant to bite off more than they can chew with scaffolding and a rail jam in town. And they want to see what things could look like in year one, and then have a 10-month runway for next year to really put some additional thought into what they could do for this event.
Have they indicated when they are going to announce the performer?
An actual special event permit has not been submitted yet. So I would expect we need to have another conversation before an official announcement were to happen. So,
Dick, did you want to speak on this one?
Sure. I think the gist of it might have been touched on earlier, is the ski area is really trying to bring back a younger demographic, and that's the reason for trying to do this type of animation activity. I'd love to see us, I don't know that we have enough information to make the decision now, but I'd sure like to see the event committee and Public Works and the PD and all the staff departments that'll be involved really take a hard look at it. And if there's any way to do it in town, this would be a great activation right in this center of town. Moving forward, this is the kind of thing that I would think has a great opportunity on the Pele stage if we decided to go that way sometime, and be on the lawn spilling into the Blue River Plaza. Could be super cool, but I'm not sure we could pull that off now. Maybe next to Pele, but I guess I'd just like to explore all possibilities, because if we could do it in the center of town, I kind of agree with the event producers. It could be super cool.
John, what are you looking for from us at this point?
So could we, if we suggest, so basically I think what you guys want, what you really wanted to know is how we feel about the two locations. But I mean, I agree with what Dick just said, which is I personally would support either of the two locations as long as it worked for town staff. So I think what we would need from people is, do you support, the locations, and can staff make that decision, or do you have strong feelings about one location or the other?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I love the idea of having it in town and at Blue River Plaza. And I think, hear it loud and clear on kind of the challenges with Public Works. And we kind of felt that with the farmer's market. And in my head, like moving forward, I'm like, how do we make sure Public Works is really supported? And is there some structure in there that can set them up for success so that we can have these events, done in town? And the in-town piece to me is key. If it needs to be, and I heard what you said too about kind of having the runway, 10-month runway for next year. And it's like, yeah, let's have some progress, not worry about perfection this year, really kind of get it dialed for next year. Would I love to have it in town this year? Yeah. Do I want to crush Public Works? No. Would I love to see some improvements to the Public Works like system so that it's an easy lift? That to me is, I think there's going to be more stuff events wise that we're going to need Public Works to have that capacity. So it's like, how do we give them that runway to be set up for these in the future? So yeah, great work. I think it's absolutely the direction we need to go.
And Todd, those discussions are happening with Public Works, and we're really figuring out what that dollar amount is, like whether you need to truck snow, what does it cost for Stan Miller? So those are good discussions that we're having on a town staff. And we've as far as the closures go, I just want to reiterate, Public Works would not be responsible for these closures for the 2 days. They already are not going to be responsible for Uller Parade closure. And the proposal for this is they would not be responsible for that as well.
And in my mind, if there's like a dollar amount we can invest ahead of time to get it in town, like when we had the Do Tour in town, like it's electric. And I think that it has a branding impact. It has certainly an economic impact in the short term, but I think overall it's absolutely what we want. It changes the dynamic there in kind of that mid-December timeframe. So hopefully we can get it there this year, but if not, lining that up for next year to where it's good. And yeah, if we need to outsource that, great. That's the easiest path to getting this going. To me, that's the way to go.
Others?
Go ahead.
I'd leave it up to SEPA to decide, the town departments, to see what logistically makes sense. I think this is a cool event, and especially the future and the potential for future years. But this year, the timeline is short. So what town departments think they can make work the best.
I would love to see if there was a way to work this where we didn't have the Main Street closure, not necessarily because of the cost or any additional work, but just because of the disruption that closing Main Street and the messaging that goes along with it. I think that would be my first priority or preference would be to have it in that Blue River Plaza, maybe push it back a little bit on the lawn if it's possible. I don't know if there's safety concerns with the river and with, a rave, or if, or what it might be, but I also understand why, with the visibility not being the same, why Sawmill and Schoonover is not as high on the producer's preference. So kind of pulling that through, if there was a way not to have that Main Street closure, I think that'd be really beneficial.
All right.
There's points on both sides. I think the town staff that are gonna have to make this happen can pick the best location. Schoonover would be a way to keep Main Street open and still have lots of space for a big crowd. It's not as photogenic, and maybe that's what the Rockstar people want, is the photogenic side of it.
Okay, so hopefully someone kept track of what those numbers were.
Yeah, I think, ultimately there was a lot of talk about having the rail jam in town. And so making sure everybody is good with the fact that that needs to happen up on the mountain this year. And then I think your direction for staff to go back and through events committee and SEPA figure out what works is perfect.
Great. Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Information helped the discussion a lot. Okay, communications and community engagement update.
I just have a short verbal update for you all today. Just wanted to let you know that we feel that kind of reaching out to the community, meeting them where they are, is really working well for us. And I wanted to give a couple of examples. Last night, we hosted the first of two Pathways to Homeownership classes. It was the Spanish speaking version, and they got about 50 people at that, and already received a lot of positive feedback about how useful it was. Obviously, it was our housing team, outreach team, and then some Combined Housing Authority, yeah, SCHA, working in tandem for that. And I think it was a really good example of how we can work together as a community to bring that information to the people who really need it.
Helen, was that class in person or virtual? Can you
It
remind us?
was in person at CMC,
Back? Okay, great.
I think, yeah.
Recorded so you can watch.
Recorded, yes, recorded. That's why I hesitated. So it will be posted online as well, so people can refer to it. It was the Spanish speaking class. And then the English speaking class is November 4th. And we're hoping for a similar kind of turnout for that. And then we also hosted the Mexican consulate this weekend, had 300 appointments, directly serving some people in our community who really needed the services. So we're really pleased with how that went. We are still kind of looking for ways to help the community answer questions for law enforcement. There was a community forum last week. It wasn't particularly well attended, but we will continue to kind of outreach and see what we can do to help bridge that gap and work with the community on their questions about law enforcement's role. And then just wanted to remind you that the Beginner's Guide to Local Government class, the first of the series, is November 6th. So that's next week. It'll come up really quickly. And May will be teaching that class at CMC. So again, thank you to CMC for being a partner in all of these. We do hope to have a successful series of courses about local government, and they're all a little bit different moving forward.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Questions? Great job.
Thank you.
Arts and Cultural Master Plan and Structure Funding RFP Scope.
Mayor and Town Council. The last Town Council meeting, it was requested that we come back with the scope of the RFP for your review. And that RFP, the scope is included in your packet in detail, but as an attachment, but there's primarily two pieces to this RFP. The first one is the master plan, which creates a vision, a 10-year vision for a master plan for arts and culture in town, and would create short and long-term strategies that tie to that vision with action items and metrics for us going forward. And then also it would identify gaps between the current and desired future programming with recommendations, with priorities and outcomes for the town, and identify areas then with town investment areas. And again, providing those short and long-term goals and actions. Then with the second piece would be the organizational structure and funding analysis. And that would provide first recommendation on funding models and policies that would support the current and future arts district and programs. And then the second would be goal of that would be for best practices, recommendations on best practices, and or alternative management structure models, and really focusing on, what's most efficient for operations, coordination, and limited liability risks to the town and our organizations. So with those two, the RFP is written so that the organizational and funding structure could be separated out if possible. We think it is worthwhile to have it in the same RFP because there's a lot of benefit to having one consultant potentially do both of these pieces. But if it's not the right fit for the consultant that we choose to do the master plan, then we can go ahead and select a different consultant to go ahead with this organizational and funding piece. So we did kind of make that a little bit of an option. The other piece to that is that we foresee the master plan being like a 6 to 12 month process, and the structural and funding analysis being 6 months. So that's a shorter. The difference also is that the outreach for the master plan is a very broad community outreach. It has a lot of key stakeholders that you'll see in that attached RFP scope. It has a wide range of demographics from age and cultures and interests. So we are really focusing on different formats for that outreach and community forums, events, activities, techniques to really engage the community in the master planning and visioning for the town for the next 10 years for arts and culture programming. And then that structure would be, involving the steering committee and of course the council and our key stakeholders. The organizational and funding structure is more of an internal process, that shorter process, and would involve the town council and BCA, BTO, our resident companies, and other key stakeholders that we may identify. And that's more sort of those one-on-one interviews. And again, the shorter process. And that's more going to be reporting to the town council and the town manager's office versus the larger steering committee. So those are sort of the primary differences. And then, so if there's any questions on the details and the scope, I'm happy to answer those, but I won't go over all those details. But yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I'd like to just add a little bit of context in the fact that Julia has lived this process for the last 12 to 18 months, day in, day out, has just handled this with the most professionalism and really goal-minded way that could possibly be done, and has brought this in front of the steering committee, has had enthusiastic responses from them, and just want to commend you on a great job of really putting this together in a way that has learned from, our last one, our last attempt at this. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Dick, did you have any questions or comments? I know that he.
Oh, I was just texting you. They captured, I think, Julia and Shannon did a great job of capturing most of our comments when I was able to get together with them last week. So thank you.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments or anything that we need to make sure gets in here before it goes out?
No, I'll just say thanks again, Julia. Like, I've heard from a lot of the steering committee members that you've worked with that have really appreciated your, as Jay said, professionalism in this. And it's interesting talking about this when we just had the recap from the arts organization and all the incredible things all organizations do in our community. And I think this is just the next step to make sure that we're using the resources the best that we can. And we do have that North Star of a master plan with community input to look at. So thank you.
Well said, Carol. Okay. Thanks for all your work on this.
Thank you.
Okay, we are ready for planning matters, and we're going to kick it off with the 2024 ICC Codes Adoption Work Session.
Howdy, Mayor and Council. Well, we're back. Code geeks make
He's a little shy.
get to that point, and we need him. He's here. Well, we're back. Code geeks making code tweaks again. Second round, ding ding. We won the first fight. The new 2024 Energy Code is done and dusted. We are now moving on to the 2024 Library of iCodes, the ICCs, the International Code Council's series of codes that we re-adopt every 6 years. Frisco and the county are on a similar, within months, if not weeks, type of adoption timing on all of these codes as well. And as seen on your council memo in your council packet for a week or so, it's 10 of them, plus 2 new non-international ones to newly adopt 2. The state's Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code and the county's Summit County Aquatic Health Code. You also saw in your memo how extensive outreach was done by the Breck Building Division with help from the Breck's sustainability folks on all of these codes prior to our appearing here. That outreach was done as part of the 2024 International Energy Conservation Code Adoption Stakeholder Roundtables / Public Open Houses process that lasted over 4 months. Just so you know, we are not planning to go over all the highlights of each of the codes to be adopted. We feel like the memo and its attachment do a good enough job of covering all that. Therefore, after Philip touches briefly on those attachments, including some small et ceteras, we would like to go straight to questions and comments on any other specifics that you all might have for us. Philip?
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thanks, Rick. As Rick mentioned, we have the 2024 ICC Library of iCodes with proposed amendments for your consideration. I have put together a multiple-page important changes document and the one-page summary that was included in your packet that details the proposed amendments. These are the culmination of working with our community, contractors, design professionals, and our partners at Summit County, Red, White, and Blue, Chief Nelson in attendance with us here today, Fire Protection District, and our own internal staff. Some of these include general housekeeping and clerical cleanups. Some include changes that will allow the building division to implement better processes and implement new technologies as they evolve. As Rick mentioned previously, we provided outreach on the new iCodes at our previous Energy Code Adoption Roundtable meetings. Outreach for the proposed Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code took place this last Friday at the Rec Center, where we hosted Chief Chris Brunette from the State of Colorado Division of Fire Prevention for a 4-hour training event. Attendees included design professionals, architects, contractors, material suppliers, and representatives from Red, White, and Blue, Summit Fire, Summit County Building Department. In total, we had roughly 30 people attend. The feedback we received from that training was positive and supportive. I would like to note regarding the Wildfire Resiliency Code, our planning division is also working with the Planning Commission to amend the development code regarding allowed materials under Policy 5R and guidance on contributing historic structures. The Planning Division has had 2 work sessions with the Planning Commission and is tentatively coming to Town Council at the end of November to present recommendations. Staff would like to thank Council for your consideration of the proposed important changes and is available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
And now the moment of truth has come. Do any of you have any specific questions or comments for the 3 of us? Drum roll, please.
Questions?
I have a comment.
Okay.
The way that you guys laid this out for us with, this is jargon that we don't really deal with on a day-to-day. And so the fact that you're able to put in a quick summary of the history, the rationale, if it's more restrictive or less restrictive, and then, you know, what costs would be incurred was nothing short of brilliant. Like, it was so easy to read. It was so easy to go through and understand what the impact of some of these changes are. And I just, I'm so appreciative and just thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay. I would be remiss if I didn't give a little bit of credit to Steve Nelson here. You know how jurisdictions, we like to borrow from each other all the time. And he sort of laid the roadmap with his commission, Board of Commissioners. So, but thank you. Yeah, I did the rest. There was a lot of me in there and a lot of Jay. Thanks,
His
Jay.
format, it was brilliant, and thanks for recognizing that.
Absolutely. And hopefully, you guys will be able to continue stealing that because I think it was really effective.
Awesome. Yeah, we collaborate.
I'm curious, so thanks for the hard work on the whole package. On the sprinkler systems, was that ratcheting down to the 4,500? Is that state mandated? Is that a local push to go from the 6,000 to the 4,500 square foot limitation there? And then as part of that question, that's including garage space as well, right?
First part, it's a state trend, especially in the mountains. You know, leaders like Aspen, Eagle, Boulder areas have been implementing the smaller square foot thresholds. In the past, the Roaring Fork Valley was 5,000. We've been at 6,000. And it's just time to get more sprinkler systems into more structures, given the wildfire threat and the insurance issues and the data of how they save lives and property. Philip, on the 4,500 to include garage or not?
Yeah.
Speak to that.
You want to speak to that, Jay?
Yeah.
I bring Jay in just to speak to that because his definition, which is what we went off of for this, is different from the energy code.
So yeah, it does include the garage of the structure. We're finding that we're having more home fires in the garage
Yeah, makes
as
sense.
the use of energy changes within those garages. So vehicle charging poses a risk to the house. And so putting that sprinkler system in helps reduce that risk.
One of the challenges I've had voiced through a couple of different phone calls the last 6 months is the lack of fire sprinkler inspectors. And then I've got constituents calling saying, hey, I'm getting, you know, questions from and basically notes about getting fined because I don't have my sprinkler system inspected this year and I can't find somebody to come up. How do we solve that piece? Because it sounds like there's not a lot of private folks that'll come inspect it. And then if we increase the supply, like that's only going to make it harder.
Yeah, so we publish a business resource list that has known contractors that work in the area that have worked with the fire district that are performing to the levels of the code requirements for testing and inspection. So that is published on our website and available and has a list of those contractors that are available to do that. As for the notices that are going out, we have switched into a program called Compliance Engine, which is helping us manage the systems that we have out there. As we've moved from code to code to code and record system to record system to record system, we've lost a lot of that. So they've come in to help us. So that's why that notification has started going out. We have not fined anybody for lack of testing and inspection.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's challenging. And one of the people that called me was like, yeah, I went through the entire list. Nobody would come up. And so that's a concern as we think about if we pass this at the lower square footage, then you're going to have more inspection requirements and we can't get inspections done now. So that's, and I get the importance of like, yeah, we want to protect against wildfire and home fires and all that. So
The home fire sprinkler inspection is much different than the commercial inspection as well.
yeah, but this was for a home that was saying like, hey, I can't get anybody to show up. And anyways, I appreciate the context there. A little bit of concern about that ratcheting down, but also have concerns about fire. So something to chew on there.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions just to clarify in my own mind. First, there's language about the ability to authorize temporary occupancy. And Mark and Chris are in here and may have another comment. We've always allowed bonding for things that don't get done when people can get in their homes. It looks to me like this is consistent with what we're doing. It doesn't address any of the issues about how you would bond for that when somebody comes in. Do you have any additional information about how you see that?
Good eyes, Steve. Phillips worked with it.
Speak a little bit to that. This is separate from planning matters. Planning is where the bonding comes in. Typically, it's for unfinished landscaping that can't be done due to weather, inclement weather, time
Paving.
of year, paving, etc. We decided to do this. It's always been deleted out. This is proposed. It's a tool for us because we are seeing long leads on certain products like elevator inspections happening. It's a elevator in a house where the occupants do not need it. It's not ready to be finalized by Northwest Cog, but the people want to move in. So that's just for instance on where we're coming from with this temporary occupancy.
Do you ever see that there could be conflict between the planning people saying, well, this elevator is not going to be done, and we're going to need to bond this, as opposed to what you guys would say, it's okay, it's safe, you don't need it. And the homeowner is saying, well, listen, they say it's safe for me to be in there. I don't know who's going to resolve that.
Well, in a small percentage, case by case, that could arise. Just like anything. And that's how we'll approach it. Case by case, by a small percentage. There's only solutions, not problems. We could work our way out of that wet paper bag, I think.
Okay, thank you. I think you can too.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
In the cases where there are situations like that, we're coordinating very closely at planning with the building folks. So, for something where it's really related to their code, unrelated to planning, and they want to do a TCO, and I think the elevator is a good example. We're fully supportive, and then they're supportive of us if there's things that are required, whether it's a covenant for an easement or a deed restriction or something like that, that they will not CO as well. It's really a coordinated effort all the way down our green sheet process from finance to make sure all the vendors are declared and the tax is collected, to engineering, to planning, to building, and then sometimes housing.
Yeah, I would just add that each department sort of has its own code that it's administering. So if one, if something's not meeting one part of the code and that department is saying we can't move forward with a TCO or CO or whatever it is, the other departments can't override that. Does that, they wouldn't. There really isn't yeah.
Checks and balances.
Yeah.
Interdepartmental cooperation. Yeah.
We've had this conversation and leading up to this with the 4,500 square feet and the step down. I was reading through the part of the code that describes the fire area as how you calculate whether you're over or under the 4,500 square feet. Can you conceive of any workarounds that somebody who's inclined to want to avoid the sprinkler systems can build part of their house that is excluded by the fire area definition that would be an easy finish once they got their CO? And it looked to me like it had to do with whether a wall had a finish to it or whether it was an open wall. I just think people are always going to try to get around that.
Yeah, so I think there's always opportunities for alternate materials and methods to be used in some of those can be depending on the separation between a garage and a house and how straight that wall is. A lot of times that can become a fire rated wall to separate the fire area so that you end up with two different square footages on the house. But again, that becomes problematic if there's unique features in that wall that cause it to, you know, have weird angles. It's harder to get that fire rating. So there are alternative materials and methods that can be used, such as dividing the house, utilizing fire rated assemblies that are nationally published to cause that to change that square footage. So there are avenues.
Complicated ones. Okay. Be trying pretty hard.
Yeah.
Go outside of typical construction technique.
And-
So it would cost.
And I think it's important to note on that 4,500, while we're ratcheting it down from 6,000, the International Residential Code actually requires all homes to be sprinklered. The 6,000 code amendment was put in place years ago, trying to protect the community, trying to provide that additional protection to these really large homes back when we had volunteers and numerous firefighters that would respond to a fire scene. Now that all the fire departments have gotten paid, the resources become more limited, and that's where that 4,500 really kicks in. Is that's based off the resources we have available within the community to respond.
That's important to note, is that the I-codes library that we're here to readopt in its original form requires almost all structures, no matter how small. I'm not talking about 240 square foot sheds, but 800 square foot ADUs and 5,000 square foot McMansions, commercial buildings, etc., to all be sprinklered. Jurisdictions have for years amended that to give builders, homeowners a cost break that we think its time has expired. The sprinkler systems costs have come down so far, practically half of what they were. On a 4,500 square foot house, it's about $27,000 to fully sprinkler it. And someone was commenting, just an admin, when this was brought up in a building division meeting, how she's seen fireplaces that were $20,000 or $30,000 in these houses. So it's kind of a no-brainer anymore. And then I'll just add wildfire, 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 insurance, insurance, insurance on top of all that.
One last question, because we're moving into that area where we're seeing the scrapes and the remodels. And maybe just a quick comment on the idea of when you partially scrape and then build a new section, and how you decided where those numbers came from.
Which numbers?
So it says something like the addition to a partial rebuild, a remodel, is more than 4,500 square feet, then the entire structure has to be sprinklered. That, even though the entire house is now over 4,500 square feet. Reading that correctly?
Yeah, our existing code right now is 6,000, with 600 is the addition. So if you do an addition that's 600 square feet, you have to sprinkler the addition. If you build an addition that's 6,000 square feet in the current code, you have to sprinkler the entire house. So that at that point, your house would be 12,000 roughly. And it also states that if you remove interior finishes in the existing portion during that process of like a smaller addition, you would then have to sprinkler that. So when we, Chief Nelson here, proposed this new reduction, the numbers we came up with were just to simplify it. Instead of having 6,600, we thought 4,500 plus 500 makes it, they just become easier numbers to handle. 5,000. There's similar numbers that we used with our energy code adoption. You know, if the 4,500 square footage was our small platter, if you remember when we brought that to council, and 500 was the trigger for the addition. So we were just trying to keep some consistency with numbers because it becomes very confusing for design professionals, architects, contractors when they're dealing with these types of projects. So
Jay might be able to speak more to the numbers, but that's where we're at currently.
So those numbers, back when we looked at adopting the 2012 International Fire Code, those were numbers that we sat and worked with the building official or the building community and the architects to come up with as an alternative to requiring those to fully be sprinklered. So that was a negotiation that went on back in 2012 for that code adoption.
So doing your math, kind of consistent with what already existed. If you kept 500 square feet of the structure being torn down, built 4,500 square feet of new structure, you would stay under the sprinkling requirement.
The 4,500 square foot new home would meet the sprinkling requirement.
Oh, if it was 4,499. I mean, if you
Yeah,
stayed
then it
under
would come
that,
in under that.
but you could save an additional 500 feet.
Yep.
And stay under. Okay. Thanks very much. Sorry to take so much time with that.
No, it's fine. It's a game that gets played now. We've had houses that come to us at 5,998. And we require some sophisticated as-built dimensioning to be done and turned into us to be sure that it didn't go 6,001 and needs sprinkling. There's one right now that just CO'd recently, and without that documentation from a surveying company, some digital measurements, some third-party involvement, we didn't CO it. Yep. So that game does get played. It'll get played at 45 like it's played at 6.
I think Dick has a comment or a question. I'm not sure, Rich.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, I I wasn't able to hear all of the discussion then, so I hope this isn't out of line. I tend to agree with Todd on the sprinkler, the threshold from 6,000 current to down to 4,500. Jay, I appreciate you being here and a lot of your insight. That's helpful. And I agree that we should include the garage in that calculation, just with the, with electric charging and all of that going on the garage. If we're going to sprinkle a structure, we should certainly sprinkle the garage as well. But it's in an effort to strike the balance, and we've added a lot of cost to building in Breckenridge in the last several years with a lot of our code changes, and I just feel like I want to try to work with the building community a little bit and help strike a balance of affordability and fire safety and sustainability and everything. And I don't know if this is going to help, but I think it's an effort. So that's my comment. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so anything else? Does it look good? We support it as written? Okay. All right. I echo that this was a great document, really easy to follow. Thank you guys for your work on it,
Thank you.
for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
Next up is the Blue River Pathways Screening and Development Code Amendments Work Session.
Main co-partner here.
Speak into microphone.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mark and I have for you some considerations regarding the town's current policy 37A, which is the Riverwalk Special Area. And we would like for you to consider some code amendments to this special area policy. This is really in two parts, so I'll speak to each of those separately. First, just to orient you, the Riverwalk Special Area is, of course, from Ski Hill Road to south to Park Avenue. It includes the areas behind the buildings of Main Street and goes across the river to the west bank of the river. So this policy is already in place, and we would like for you to consider some code updates to allow for us to require screening of some of the activity that goes on behind the commercial buildings in this area. There's some areas that are more compatible with the Riverwalk than others, and you can see from this photo, which is an old example, there's definitely areas of the Riverwalk that are more engaging to pedestrians than others. So the first thing is, would we consider requiring screening of items behind these commercial areas, like restaurant supplies? There's some places have their kegs out, parking, just items that are not necessarily inviting to pedestrians along the Riverwalk. And then the second part of the absolute policy, policy 37, really gets into incentivizing Riverwalk compatible improvements. But we would like your feedback and consideration of whether we should explore changes to this policy. Currently, it's a little convoluted. It's complicated to figure out what somebody could do with their property back here. We've really only had a handful, the Bunchman Building being an example of a property that took advantage of the incentivizing policies within this within policy 37. So we would like your feedback and gauge your interest in whether or not pursuing some more, let's see, just more incentivization of compatible improvements. So whether that be your, we go forward with looking at possibly density bonuses or waivers of parking requirements, which parking for outdoor Riverwalk compatible improvements in this area is exempt, but that's conflicting with some of the other parking policies where we do require parking for exterior dining. There are some other incentivizing mechanisms that we could consider for this policy and changes that would make it a little more appetizing for retailers and commercial enterprises to take advantage of. And we really feel that changes to this policy now will set us up in a good place when we implement our own public improvements with the Riverwalk master plan that are going to be coming forward in the next few years. So really the changes to this policy would help with private improvements along the Riverwalk as well. And so looking for your feedback on those two questions.
Maybe just to add a tiny bit, we're not necessarily proposing the screening, but we want to get your input on that if you think that's a path we want to go down. And then as far as incentives, one of the ones that we could consider is employee mitigation fees. If we were strong enough that we wanted to, just in this limited case of the Riverwalk area, the Blue River Pathway, to provide some exceptions to that. We have heard from some owners there that if there was some more exceptions, maybe I'd be more inclined to activate this space behind my business. The pictures that we provided are interesting in that this is one of the only examples of where the Riverwalk compatible improvements, which has been in our code for some 20 years, was actually, someone took advantage of it. And in this particular case, there was actually a development agreement with the council that, and the council agreed to providing about $130,000 to make these improvements happen. And in exchange, the main thing we got out of it, besides a more beautified, obviously just the building itself, some of the architectural improvements were helpful, with the landscape and everything. But we also got a permanent easement for public use of this area as well. So, and we go in and do bike valet and different events that we might utilize this Sons of Norway Park for. We're able to do that in perpetuity. But in that case, there was even a dollar amount beyond just the Riverwalk compatible improvements itself. So I think it's been underutilized. We know there's some properties we'd like to see improvement on, but so anyway, we just want to see the council's appetite for possibly taking some of that on, if
Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I love the direction you're going here and applaud kind of the thoughts and the concepts. And I think you try some stuff and see what works. And, you know, part of me thinks on the incentives, if you're not getting the result and getting enough folks to take it up, then you got to bump up the incentives a little bit. But yeah, I think try some things. I like the idea of the screening. Would love to hear the attorney's thoughts, if it's appropriate, on why we can't maybe drive or push for removal of some behavior in that zone.
I'm happy to discuss that. If you want to hear a brief, we can talk more in executive session if you want to. But the short answer is that if it's a use that is currently legal, we cannot make it illegal under state law. So that is the short answer.
Seems simple. Thank you. Yeah, that's crystal clear. And yeah, again, I love the direction you're going. Please try some stuff, and thank you for the hard work on that.
I'm 110% in on this. I have been for a long time. We're getting ready to spend millions of dollars to improve the Blue River Pathway. And there's some places that are just not pleasant. Signage to the rear may be an incentive. I think there's a lot of things that a merchant could benefit from. The people that are passing behind their business that may not pass back in front of their business. And that's a win-win for the people to fix up their exteriors. But, you know, we're stuck with what we're stuck with, and that's the way that is. And you're only going to fix that if you can incentivize it enough to get them to be willing to change. But we certainly can enforce things like loose kegs piled up in back, junk that's inoperable pieces of equipment, parts of stoves, and I've seen broken barbecue grills. There's all kinds of stuff that is a real low-hanging fruit to clean up back there. But I'm in for spending a lot of money to improve that area, and doing the screening and doing the work that you're suggesting is all part of it.
Dick, do you want to chime in on this one?
Sure. Yeah, I'm in agreement with Steve and Todd, but spending the money might be the last option I would use, but I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I took advantage of this in the early 90s with Mikasa as a property owner. And we built an addition on the back of that building. And it was a real win-win, and it helped us a ton. And I think it really helped the town in terms of improving the looks of a pretty darn ugly building. And and got access for the Riverwalk to go around the south end of the pond there. But it really did work for us, so I can speak to both sides on this one. I think we have strong levers to work with people with parking requirements and employee generation requirements, and even possibly negotiating some density in there. So I think we have a lot of tools before we start spending cash, but I'm not opposed to cash as well, as a last resort kind of. I also think we should consider moving the boundary to the north to French Street. I think there's a lot more going on the west side of the buildings on Main and east of the river for that block as well now, and with the model of being there and the at some point redevelopment of Parkway Center, I think it would really benefit us to include, to expand the boundary there. So those are my comments. Thanks.
I agree with Dick. I like the idea of pushing the boundary down to Front Street. I think even just kind of making that bike pedestrian pathway through that section has drawn a lot more people and traffic in there, and I would like to see the incentives applied down there. And I also agree with Dick that I'm not opposed to financial incentives, but I would like to see the other incentives first.
I think there's, it's an interesting discussion, right? Because you have these trade-offs, when it comes to having multiple entrances to a business and, speaking mostly of like the retail where having a front and back door or two front doors from each side, it poses some challenges of trying to keep track of your inventory and whatnot. And so I think that the desire to the offset to that is to have a strong desire to have that traffic have access to your business, from that riverside. And I would hope that the market forces would be an incentive enough, but chances are that there will be some other items that would be needed. And I'm interested in seeing what those might be. I really don't think it's gonna be a one size fits all. I think we're gonna have to kind of see what works for what's motivation for certain places. Perhaps for some of the restaurants that are in that corridor, maybe the need for some outdoor storage. And if they're maxed out their footprint, but if they have outdoor storage, maybe that is the offset, that all that can be hidden, the stuff that needs to be stored outside the back of something, if they were just allowed a little bit of a larger footprint. And maybe for a retail business, that its signage increased. And maybe for another business, it is needing some capital improvement or tenant improvement dollars to make that happen. And so I'd love to see a lot of flexibility written into this, because I think each case is going to be very individual and require kind of a little bit of a soft touch. Yeah.
I agree with what's been said and look forward to seeing the solutions you bring to us. The last point Jay brought up is something I was thinking about. If it is more of a development agreement structure, if it's not all of the options listed or a couple of them, I don't know if it makes more sense to codify or have that clear signal that we'd be open to development agreements. Thank you.
I agree with what's been said. I'm a little unclear, though. The first question, I believe, was, would we like to require screening? And I guess I just feel like, while I really wish that people would just want to maintain all areas of their building, and I am a little reluctant to put something that would cost anything on people right now, because it's just been a little bit of a hard summer. So I'm very emphatically excited about incentivizing improvements, but I feel like the screening conversation, to me, I would prefer to see it as a conversation. And I don't know, maybe you guys would say, yeah, we've done that 100 times and that's not going anywhere. But my preference would not be to put a cost burden on the people who are trying to do business in the community right now. And so if there's a way to incentivize it, I'm much more comfortable with that, less comfortable with requirement.
Well, we appreciate that. And maybe one of the next steps would be to get a small group of stakeholders, businesses together to just kind of bounce some of these ideas off them, get their reaction. So.
An excellent idea. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
More information.
Sounds good. Thanks for your work. So I think we're going to go into executive session now.
Yes.
Your timeliness. You run a good meeting there, Kelly Ellen.
May prints me out my agendas now. It really helps me stay on task.
Okay. So there are a couple things that have come up today that we're going to add to the executive session. So
Can I say
yeah.
something? So Staff who's staying, I just want to tell you that we're gonna go into executive session, then we're gonna get something to eat, and then we're gonna come back in here so that you guys can eat. So we won't hold you up too much.
Okay, if I can get a motion under 24-6-4024A, B, and, oops, E, to discuss, property interests, relate and receive legal advice and discuss negotiations related to the Berlin Placer, development. And there are some agreements that the town has with the developer, that I want to discuss with you and provide some advice. In addition, I would like to provide legal advice under 24-6-4024B, regarding non-conforming uses, which we just discussed. And then there are two litigation matters that have just sort of come up today that I wanted to give you an update on. One of them is involving federal matters, and then one of them is a 106 action regarding BGV parcel 3. Oh.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so is it okay? All right, 7:02. I'm gonna call the town council regular meeting for Tuesday, October 28th to order. Roll call, please, May.
Marika Page.
Here.
Dick Carlton. Absent. Steve Gerard.
Here.
Carol Sade.
Here.
Jay Beckerman.
Present.
Todd Rankin.
Here.
Mayor Kelly Owens.
Here. Approval of the agenda. Any changes, Shannon? Okay. The agenda stands. Communications to council. Now is the time for public comment. This is any non-agenda items only, and you'll have a 3-minute time limit, please. Seeing no public, comment is closed. Rec Tourism Office update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lucy Kay from the Tourism Office. Quick updates on lodging. As of yesterday, through key data, our summer room nights are ending down about 12%, revenue down about 10%, which is where we've, kind of what we've been forecasting for a while. We had a CADMO meeting last week. That's the Colorado Association of DMOs. And a number of our comp set, other mountain resorts that we followed that were having strong summers early, kind of hit a lull in July, and most of them finished kind of flat. We're down, we're down more than that, but there was a bigger slowdown in July for the latter part of the summer that was confirmed. Winter is a little more optimistic. Looking forward, again, numbers are small because it's early. We're about flat, 1% up. Revenue's up about 4%. That's ADR being up about 5%. We are looking at, John and I were just talking, we do have a bit of a bump in lodging right now in mid-December. And that's probably a function of Rockstar as well as the Lifestyles College Group is coming back this year. John will talk more about that probably, so I won't steal that. But that's the bump in December. That we believe that's the bump in December. So last week, the big news was the Governor's Conference on Tourism was in Colorado Springs. We attended in force because we were able to announce that Breckenridge will be hosting that event in September of 2026. It'll be December 23 or September 23 to 25. Beaver Run gets a lot of credit. They prepared that bid and won that bid. BTO will be hosting the opening reception. We expect 400 to 500 people. The spring sold out at 500. They did a phenomenal job. We were in a brand new hotel at the Air Force Academy, and the welcome reception was at the Olympic Museum. So we have a tough act to follow, but I feel really good about it. We plan on showcasing the Arts and Culture Campus, and I'd like to theme in a lot of the sustainability achievements that we've had here in Breckenridge, kind of borrowing from Mountain 2030. I think we can pull in some ideas there. So we're excited about that. And then we'll have some people in the BTO working on that pretty much full time from now until when we host. So that's a big deal. Last time we had this event was 2016, and it was very well attended. People are excited to come here. So it's great. Couple updates on events. Global Fire, thank you so much for your support in funding that one. First time event. We're planning has started. We're looking at June of 2026. And again, that's a kind of chef competition kind of event that will be hosted at Country Boy Mine, but we're going to look for ways to pull it into town and use that to build out our culinary as well as our historic branding. So there's lots of things we can do there. Mike Shipley from Country Boy Mine is going to be real involved in helping build out some of these events too. Oktoberfest, we did well, and thank you, John, and everybody for the kind words. We did have a lot of hurdles to overcome this year, and the team, I agree, did a phenomenal job. A lot of unexpected changes. There's always good things that come from difficult things, and going forward, what we'll be doing is restructuring how we look at our revenue streams, and we'll probably work with multiple breweries in terms of partnerships versus having the risk of just one brewery. So I think, and for the long haul, it's kind of a good thing that popped us into this other lane. So we're just really pleased. Eagle Rock did a great job. It ended up good, so we're happy. Snow sculpture, we're full on in snow sculpture planning as well. The lodging community is being very supportive. They normally are, but this year even more so. And just a reminder that Ukraine and South Korea are two new teams this year. So I think that's going to garner some interesting media response. Yeah, so those are the main things. I will say too, the resident survey is out, the big resident survey. We are quite behind in number of responses. We've got about 400, which is enough if that's all we had, but we typically get 11 to 1,500. So that's going to remain open for a while, and we just encourage everybody to please participate. And then next week in here, we'll have our winter preview. Max Winters from the ski resort will be our keynote speaker, if you will, to give us the update for what's happening on the mountain this year. And Julia will be talking about parking. And then we're going to have a breakout session at the end of it for AI for small business. So we hope you can come. It'll be in here next Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Any questions or comments?
See, on the GovCon, are those governors from the entire nation, just the Western Slope? What?
No, it's the governor's, so it'd be like Governor Polis's conference on tourism for Colorado. Every state has them, so it's a statewide tourism conference. And frequently people from other states go just to see what's happening in the comp set, but yeah, it's quite good. A lot of the presenters are national. Yeah. Anything else? Great, thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. All right, the ski area. John.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Thanks for having me again. I think it's been a bit. Sorry I missed the last one. I was out of town. Yeah, this is always such an exciting time. Things go pretty fast, and winter is quickly approaching here. And thank the Lord for the little bit of weather we just got, because it probably pushed us over. Before we dive into winter, I do just want to bring up a few things from summer, since we haven't really talked since then. Operationally, we ran about 97 days, opened on June 13th, went through September 1st. The coaster and the slide continue to be the biggest attractions. And yet we've seen for the third straight year, our biggest increase in utilization has just been on the scenic chair rides. So we're starting to see that become really popular. Weather, really more impactful as the lightning just continues to be the biggest barrier for us to keep that thing up and running on a daily basis, which creates a challenge for our guests and getting them off the hill and getting them back down into town. And of course, the rainstorm on 4th of July was amazing, but it's not the best thing for getting guests up to the resort and getting them up on the mountain. And this year, again, we hosted 4 local appreciation mornings. This year, we saw over 500 people attend those, and which is about a 25% increase year over year. So pretty exciting to start to see a lot of the locals come out for the first hour, start to take advantage of just free opportunity to explore some of that. All right, let's talk winter. Yeah, I think, I've had some conversations with some of you and at the resort, and I think we've really just been grounding ourselves on who Breck was and what it once was and what it could be, and trying to focus on what opportunities exist out there. And I think we're leaning into a couple of themes. And the first one being big sense, the second one being big energy, and then the third is the unparalleled mountain town connection that we have with the resort and the town here. From a resort perspective, big sends really means like the investments we make in our on-mountain infrastructure. And this year we went kind of back to all in on our snowmaking. We brought about 9 new guns, we call them, onto Springmire. Those are incredibly energy efficient. They allow for production at really variable temperatures while using less power and less water. So we're going to continue going down the avenue of replacing a lot of our guns with those. We also did an upgrade at our intake over by the Maggie, which again will allow us to increase our capacity of what we can run the system, but really it's a much cleaner running system and intake. So with that project, we were able to go all the way into our pump house and do a lot of work on that as well. And then the other, I would say, last big on-mountain infrastructure we've been working on is we've just been putting a ton of money and time into our lifts. I think the back of house, people probably don't understand how much it takes to keep those things running on a year-round basis. They take a lot of love and care to keep those things running. So this year on the gondola, we've put a lot of work in on the gondola. We'll put a lot of work in on the Colorado again, and also on the Quicksilver. And so that's been a big focus of our team, is to focus on that. As we look towards this winter with some big sends again, like we're going to reopen the Chair 6 warming hut up by Imperial at the top of Chair 6 there. It's been closed since COVID. So we went in and did some work in there. We'll be doing some food, light food offerings and drink offerings for folks. And then we're also going to be testing some solar to see if in the future we can run and power that entire little facility through a solar operation. So we're looking forward to getting that going again. Yeah, and then we continue to invest in our employee experience. We've turned a pilot program of leadership development into a twice-a-year formal program, which we're super happy about. We're prepping for our, hopefully, 4th consecutive employee preview day on the day before we open. Last year we did about 460 employees, which is our largest day ever. So we're hoping to be able to pull that off again. And then, yeah, we are for the 3rd year in a row seeing our highest return rates amongst returning staff. We had our highest staff satisfaction scores. And the thing I'm probably most proud of is we had over 1,500 employees recognized in a peer-to-peer recognition program. And so that was something that we kind of really launched last year, and we're super excited about that. And then right now we're well on track to be 100% staffed at the resort, including probably the 2 most challenging areas of food and beverage and lift experience. So fingers crossed they all show, but we're doing really good there. Events. Obviously, as you know, people don't come to Breck to get away from it all. So we're trying to embrace some of that. And as Lucy talked about, the Rockstar Energy Open, it's kind of our first foray back into world-class snowboarding events. It's been a year in the making with that group, kind of talking about what we can do, what we want to do, what they want. Excuse me. And yeah, this format is really cool because it's been 100% kind of brought on by the riders themselves and what they want. And I think there's a little combination of being at high level and also grassroots, which I think will resonate with a lot of our guests. So we're super excited about that. It'll have live television feed and live streaming coverage as well. And then 3 days free to the public, which dovetails obviously perfectly with Ullrfest. So it should be a really good weekend during Breck during that time. Some other events and activations. We are reimagining the Toyota Big Mountain Challenge. Again, just trying to like increase the spectator side of that and the engagement on that. So working to bring back the 40th anniversary of the Snowboarding World Championships. So we're working with a few partners on that. We'll have our Peaks and Beats and pond skimming weekend. And then we're working on some new on-mountain music experiences and pop-ups with some DJs and our DJ Cat as well. Really appreciate Lucy and the BTO and you all with support and trying to like re-bring some energy back to the town in a sustainable way. I think that's important. We got a lot of great ideas, and I think I'm trying to convince my team, like, let's walk before we run. Let's do these right. So yeah, looking forward to continue that. And then F&B, our T-bar experience last year was just super popular. So we are extending the hours of that on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. We're putting in a new out bar, and the team has come up with a new communal shot ski experience called Uller Time. So Beaver Creek has their cookies. We're going to have a shot ski experience, very similar. Really forward to it. I think what they've put together is awesome. And then lastly, I would just say, you know, the Mountain Town Connection. One thing we've heard and a bunch of from our guests is obviously Breck is a bucket list destination. It's one of the few remaining authentic Colorado ski towns, and we want to try and really lean into that. You know, we've talked about sustainability in here. We have 100% investment in durables, reusable serviceware, as well as energy efficient dishwashers in all of our on-mountain outlets. Team's really proud about that. Obviously, this supports our zero to waste landfill goal, but also keeps it out of our local landfill here, which we're super proud of. Cafe Food Rescue and FERC will continue to be recipients of our large donations. Last year, we put about 14,000 pounds of food through the Cafe Food Service, which we're proud of. And then we're now in year 2 of the $250,000 grant for FERC and their food market. And then we'll continue with the $25,000 grant to support their FERC Night Out, which is a big fundraiser for them. Excuse me. Parking, we thank you for that support and trying to figure out what parking looks like in this town now and in the future. We know this is a tough subject for all of us, and we appreciate just the collaboration. And I think as we get through this winter, we'll continue to experiment with some lessons and challenges we have and try and come up with the best solution. But this place is so much more than parking. We again plan to offer First Tracks every Friday in January. We have a few surprise and delights planned for a few of those Fridays for those folks who come up. And then on select dates, we'll be offering free pancake breakfast to those folks who skin up at Vista House. Working with our team to provide that. We have some surprise and delights planned for powder mornings midweek on the T-Bar that we're going to launch this year. And then we're about ready to launch a new way to communicate with locals on like new terrain openings, rope drops, and those type of things as well. So really excited about that. And then lastly, I would just say, looking forward to seeing all of you at Wake Up Breck, supporting BOEC this year. Inviting our community to come out, engage in that, donate to BOC, and then the resort will match all of the excuse me. The resort will match all of the donations from that morning as well. So yeah, we're looking forward to winter. We are 6 days away, so here we go.
I want to say you did a fantastic job at the COO breakfast. I think you represented Breck so well, and definitely did the best out of anyone else, any of the other speakers.
Appreciate that.
Going to be running the gondola later since T-Bar is going to be open later?
We are actually, that's not the plan right now. We're working on I'm going to call it a party bus, but we're working on a lighted bus with some disco balls and everything in it to start with to see how that goes, and a pop-up DJ on that as well. But we're exploring both options.
Not ready for that question.
How much I wanted to share about that right now.
Other questions? All right, thanks, John. All right, we got to approve the minutes for town council meeting October 14th. Any changes, additions, comments? Minutes stand. All right, we're going to go into into new business, no continued business. First reading of Council Bills Series 2025, Council Bill number 18, an ordinance amending sections 585 and 5812 of the Breckenridge Town Code concerning noise.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The noise ordinance, the proposed amendment to the noise ordinance will address 2 changes in state law. One resulting from a change in the legislature regarding allowable decibel levels for the commercial and residential zones in the town. And the other one is a result of a recent Supreme Court case that limited the exceptions that can be granted from the decibel level restrictions to property owned or used or permitted to be used by governments and nonprofits as opposed to private owners.
Thank you, Keely. Any questions? Any comments from the public on Council Bill number 18, Series 2025? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Can I have a motion?
I move that we pass Council Bill number 18, Series 2025, the title of which has been read into the record.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, May.
Councilmember Rankin.
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton is absent. Councilmember Beckerman.
Yes.
Councilmember Page. Councilmember Sade.
Yes.
Councilmember Gerard.
Yes.
Mayor Owens.
Council Bill number 19, Series 2025, an ordinance approving a lease with Comcast Cable Communications Management LLC for a cable and broadband communication signal processing and transmission facility. Chris.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Here to present for first reading the renewal of a 10-year lease with Comcast Cable Communications for 850 square foot head-end facility at 524 Wellington Road. The renewal has a rent increase from $3,300 to $5,700 per month with 5% annual escalations. Staff's recommendation is approving this on first reading. I'm available for any questions.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions? All right. Any comments from the public on Council Bill number 19, Series 2025? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Can I have a motion?
I move that we pass Council Bill number 19, Series 2025, the title of which was read into the record.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, May.
Councilmember Sade.
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin.
Yes.
Councilmember Page.
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton is absent. Councilmember Gerard.
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman.
Yes.
Mayor Owens.
Yes. Moving on to Council Bill number 20, Series 2025, an ordinance setting the mill levy within the town of Breckenridge for 2026.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Pamela Ness, Revenue Manager for the record. I'm here to present the first reading for the ordinance setting the 2026 mill levy within the town of Breckenridge at 5.07 mils. This levy amount is the amount that the town is authorized to impose and according to state law cannot be increased without an election. We forecast that the 5.07 mil levy will result in property tax revenue of 5.3 million for the purpose of defraying the expenses of the general fund. We recommend that council approve the mill levy at 5.07 mils on first reading. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Pam?
Clarify for the public, this mill levy has been in place at this rate since 2014. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And it's not a raise or an increase.
It is not. It has stayed at 5.07 since 2014, and in order to increase, it would need a vote.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Any comments from the public on Council Bill number 20, Series 2025? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Can I have a motion?
I move that we pass Council Bill number 20, Series 2025, the title of which has been read into the record.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, May.
Councilmember Beckerman.
Yes.
Councilmember Sade.
Yes.
Councilmember Page.
Yes.
Councilmember Gerard.
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin.
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton is absent. Mayor Owens.
Yes. Moving on to resolutions, Resolution number 12, Series 2025, a resolution adopting the 2026 budget and making appropriations therefore, and approving the 2026 capital improvements plan in public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tracy Lambert, Senior Accountant. I'm here to present a resolution to adopt the 2026 budget, to adopt the 2026 capital improvement plan, and to make appropriations for the total expenditures for 26 of 200,784,895. The breakdown per fund is broken out in the resolution document.
Thank you. Any questions for Tracy? Since it's a public hearing, do I do the, okay. Any comments from the public on resolution number 12, Series 2025? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Can I have a motion?
I move that we pass Resolution number 12, Series 2025, the title of which has been read into the record.
In the form that was handed out.
In the form that was handed out.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, May.
Carlton is absent. Councilmember Page.
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman.
Yes.
Councilmember Gerard.
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin.
Yes.
Councilmember Sade.
Yes.
Mayor Owens.
Yes. All right, planning matters, planning commission decisions. Comments, questions? No, great. Report of the town manager and staff.
I don't have anything, but Scott has.
Quickly, you all, our council received an email from Mark Rizzo regarding a potential development agreement related to a proposed indoor pickleball facility. That we sent that to you all probably a little bit prematurely, in that we would love to vet it better as staff to give you a better information. So I guess we would recommend that before you all kind of provide any feedback or thoughts, that we work closely with this individual to talk about a site plan and also kind of what the public benefits might be related to that proposal. And then sort of vet it with you to see if it's worth coming back. So that was one of the questions, is if you feel like that's a good approach, or if there's another way you would like to approach this proposal that was brought to you.
I'm good with that.
I think the town should investigate this further and come back to us.
Wonderful.
Agreed. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, report of the mayor and council members. We haven't had CAST or MMC since last week, so we'll move on to open space.
Yeah, the minutes were in the packet. I did want to highlight a couple things. As you saw, the tallies from Aspen Alley during that really high peak period were a little unexpected, where we were 20-1 on hikers to bikers. There's a lot of, thoughts on why that happened. Maybe it was because we didn't separate user groups, that bikers chose not to go and they chose alternate routes, or if our signage really did work with the the displays and everything. But either way, we didn't have any conflicts to note, and knock on wood, with any luck, we'll have an uphill trail by that time next year, or at least the following year. The bridge at the Jesse was removed by Columbine a couple weeks ago, or within the last couple weeks, and so that is now not as accessible, which is a benefit for the historic, preserving the historic fabric of that. We did, as again, like it said, we did talk about the marble run on Little Mountain and Illinois Gulch, and approve that for a year, just to kind of see how the trends go and how it continues to operate, having those opportunities for kind of natural play, if you will, to be up on those hiking only trails of Little Mountain. When we had THK present as well, and one of the things that was spoken about was the future of the bike path. We know that in the McCain plan that's being put together, that there is a desire to reroute our bike path that's currently there to avoid crossing McCain Access Road, as well as the Fairview roundabout. And the way that it's shown in there is that it's still on the eastern side of the parcel, but it's a 12-foot hard surface with a 4-foot soft surface. Maybe it makes some good loops. I guess the thing that I would love for you all to focus on is whether we really do want to decommission the current bikeway. One of the things that I'll get into shortly is our field trip to Jefferson County, and the true need for separating some user groups, and not necessarily mandating it, but letting the natural path take hold of that. When you have commuter e-bikes that are going 40 miles an hour down these bike paths, it'd be best to keep that on a wide established hard surface, while when we're having people that are walking dogs or going on strolls, or even taking a bike ride for a scenic reason, that they have those alternatives that are on the McCain. So I think it's just something that we're going to be talking about coming up, and just wanted to bring that to your attention. But Craig, Laura, and Sam will be back. I believe, is that in 2 weeks? Yes. So, please reach out if you want to chat about that more, especially when the packet comes out. Really quick, we did do a Jefferson County Open Space and Trails field trip, which was spectacular. It was kind of broken into like 3 different sections. The first one was their Peaks to Plain trail that will take you from Loveland Pass all the way down to downtown Denver at that REI at Confluence Park. And just, it really, it's massive. And what they're doing in Jefferson County, crossing the river with these giant bridges that can sustain, semi trucks. Funny enough, it made me think of our Pathways, Blue River Pathways project, and some of the bridges that, are spec'd in that. And just, it's what they call a generational project. It's something that has already been going on for a couple decades, will probably go on for another couple decades. And we had a lot of, me and Duke and Nikki spent a lot of time comparing notes and talking about the things that we learned. Their open space and trails division has more staff than our entire town staff. And so they have 270 miles of trails. We have 70. They have 5,000 acres of open space. We have 500. So the scale is really, really different. But the lessons, they are ahead of us in solving problems just due to their size. Some of the big takeaways were there's too many to name, but long story short, so we went from the Clear Creek Trail, that's the Peak Plains to Peak to Plains Trail. Then we went over to Apex Trail, and they kind of talked a lot about e-bikes. They talked about separating different user groups. They talked about directional trails, and just really hearing all the work that's gone into that was really cool to listen to and to hear. And then we finally ended up with their office staff learning about community engagement and how to market and how to really set yourself up for success. So long story short, it was a fantastic field trip that I think it was really, really good for Joel and Alex and Duke and Tony and all of us on BOSAC. And so that's what I got.
Breck Tourism Office.
That's me too. Yeah, I covered the meeting on this past Thursday. Lucy took most of it already, so I just have a couple small points. The summer really wasn't as bad as it was painted, throughout the whole thing. When you look at certain ways, our actual market share outperformed what our potential market share was compared to other destinations such as Park City, Vail, and Steamboat. And so it's kind of a weird, interesting metric, but just seeing what we actually did versus what our potential is, versus what others did versus what their potential was, we outperformed our competitive set. So I think that was just something to kind of put a feather in our cap, that things they're still humming along, and there was a correction. Again, I think Lucy stated it, and as well as John, but just to reiterate, Oktoberfest actually turned out positive monetarily for the BTO. And this was against all the headwinds of not having any sponsorships, not having beer until about 4 weeks prior to the event, having rain, having everything against us. And they really did pull it out with a $26,000 gain revenue over expenses, which I think it was sort of impossible how they did it. They gave us a report, Bill did a kind of a summary on intercept surveys. Our out-of-state NPS scores are down a little bit. Our family cohorts and people traveling with kids are down. People traveling with friends is way up. Our NPS score overall was 88, which is really good, as you guys know. But our first-time visitors are 82. So our first-time visitors don't seem as stoked with us as you know, people that have been here before. The good news is that our part-time homeowners are up, you know, so our NPS scores, our welcoming scores with our people that are here part-time is way up. So I thought that was encouraging because that's been something that we've been focusing on. Lastly, I know that, you know, through this whole thing with Rockstar, there was a desire to kind of get out and ahead of this. And so there's going to be a group with Molly, who's our new Breckenridge Ski Resort rep, John Copeland, and Sarah and Dick will be kind of forming a little group to look out in advance on, you know, things that are happening with the resort, moving out into the spring and figuring out how ways to engage town and utilize that fund, and to kind of bring some of those events in town and be a little more proactive and not be caught so close to the event. That's all I got for that.
Rec history?
Cool. Couple of quick little updates there. Ty and the crew been working on the trestle over there by Lululemon's Main Street Station in the Village. You should see a crane over there next week. So that's coming along and gonna be pretty cool. And then the Welcome Center Museum will be shut down here in a bit as they prep for the 250, 150 celebration in the Smithsonian. So that's coming along, and that Smithsonian Americans exhibit opens January 17th. So yeah, go check that out. That's right around the corner.
BCA?
Where Create presented today, along with our major partners. I don't want to repeat any of that, but I think takeaway in any event is that the arts are alive and well. They're performing better than we expected in many areas. I had a chance to attend a luncheon last Friday and meet the group called Thing Thing. Thing Thing are 3 artists. One's an architect, one I think is an engineer, and one's in IT of some sort. And they are coming into precious plastics to expand the marketability of recycling our plastics. They talked about putting City Market's sled sales out of business with what they could do. But in any event, they're a very interesting group of people. They come in February. They were in town just doing a kind of a walk around, getting some ideas, but they will be working out of the precious plastics and believe that we can really up what we do with those plastics and how we continue to keep them out of the landfill and utilize more of what is not being recycled.
Very cool. I love that. Equity?
We did have a meeting last week. It was the first meeting with one of our new commissioners, Carlos, and he was wonderful. We're glad to have him as part of the commission. Floor reviewed the pathway to home ownership class, which hadn't occurred yet. So Helen, thanks for the update. The commissioners are going to be thrilled. 50 community members attended that first one. Floor also talked about May's upcoming Beginner's Guide to Local Government, which I can't wait to see how many community members attend that one. The commission did have a presentation from our McKean open space consultant. So they were very pleased with what was presented. They were glad that the consultants got some input from the BOEC and I think adding a few ADA parking spots in the area. The commission also had an update with Jackie from the Breckenridge Backstage Theater and what she has been doing for the community, both internally as an organization to incorporate different voices and programming that reflects the community was really thoughtful. What else? Finally, we had a short discussion on immigration and commissioners shared how they and their communities have been impacted, their kids, by the fear. So just sharing some of the community impacts there. And there was discussion about having Keely come to a future meeting, just explain to commissioners really what is their role, what's town role in that situation.
It's great.
And that's it.
All right. Do you have anything for the steering committee? Any updates?
I think we're gonna be issuing an RFP. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Great. Any other matters?
I had one. By Castaways, the staircase that has been crossed off for years with like caution tape has been wonderfully repaired. It is gorgeous, and it's like the first step of the, I feel like it was like kind of putting the shovel in the dirt for the pathway, Blue River Pathways project. Like we start there and now, we can keep going. And so thank you so much. If that was you, thank you, Kristen. I really appreciate it. I noticed it immediately. It was great.
Well, we went by while it was under construction.
It's been under construction for like 10 years.
It looks great. Any others? All right, review the scheduled meetings and anything else? Meeting adjourned.